All right.
Right.
I'm starting this shit up, so you won't hear each other for like 3 minutes.
We did our sound check already?
Yep, we sounded like we had sound.
All right, I'm going to run to the bathroom that I didn't know.
3 minutes. Hello, Internet, and hello to all the people and my beautiful co-hosts. How are you guys doing
Hello,
today?
hello, hello.
I think we're on the Internet. I think this thing works. I have no clue what's going on, and I got a really weird choppy thing going on at the end there, but I don't think I heard it on the live. Let me just double check to make sure that I can hear you guys.
Can you hear me?
Let's find out. Hold on one second.
right,
Let me mute myself
excellent.
and turn up the feed.
Give us a perception check. What'd you get?
All right,
What'd you get?
it seems good. No reason not to light this dumpster fire. Let's see. And I completely
That's like a 12.
failed to open the notes before I started the whole thing because I'm not good at this. This is what we've come to expect. We would disappoint people if we were on top of shit, or at least if I was. Oh my god, I can't function. I'm in the wrong thing. Yep. I thought I was so good to go. I'm like, I'm sweet. I'm good to go. I'm going to start this. I got everything. Like, oh shit, where's the notes? Oh, I don't have notes. Awesome, great, wonderful. I made Amber do all, or Giddes do all the work putting notes together, and then I immediately don't use them. It's pretty awesome. And of course, Doc put them in two different places. That's perfect. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is the game brought to you by Dungeon Studios. Well, we are your hosts, starting with Giddes, all the way from the backwoods of the Wild Wild West, and a man who walks the walk and talks the talk because you can't be a mad scientist without experimenting on yourself, Dr.Pletorius. How are you, Doc?
Hello. Greetings, everyone. Greetings.
And I, Grom, am here as well. So that was not the worst opening we've had in the show's history, but definitely not the smoothest. But you know what? We're here. We're good. And I like to talk about stuff. So we were screwing around with a whole bunch of things, the layout of the show and whatnot, what we're doing, what we're not doing. So if you had your notes up, kids, we're going to go in a slightly different order. And let's start with some shit that I forgot from last week. Doc, you forgot to show up, so good job there.
Yeah, I did. No, I did show up. I just knew I could not make it. I'm very
No,
sorry.
I got no reason to apologize. But speaking of apologies, some things I wanted to get out of the way. I forgot to warn you, Giddes, before the last show that these are definitely not censored conversations or opinions. They're not popular. They're rarely PC. They usually suck. I swear a ton. And I just kind of came at you guns a-blazing. Didn't really prep you for that. Just so you know. Oh, wait. Hold on. I'm not getting audio. We are apparently not getting Amber's audio. Talk, Amber. Giddes. I see it. Hang on one second. Hold on. I want to mute myself. Doc, you and Giddes talk.
I can hear Giddes. I can hear Giddes. Now I cannot hear Giddes. It seems like... Yep, now I can hear you. Go ahead. Talk to me. Yeah. Yeah, that's really the question. I can hear everybody else.
Wonderful. Give me a second to fix this.
I can hear everybody else.
Why would this not have out? Okay. I don't understand the internet, this thing sometimes. So I've set this up dozens of times before. All I did was copy over the source. Mm-hmm. The settings should not be any different. And yet, for some reason, I didn't have your feed turned on. So get to say hi to the internet.
Hey, internet. Hopefully you can hear me.
I can hear you still.
Okay, good.
But now, hopefully, the whole internet can hear you as well.
Hopefully. Can Grom hear me?
And we hear Grom. I haven't heard Grom.
Yeah, okay.
I
hear everyone. Okay, I hear everyone on the internet right now. We're good to go.
All right.
That's all worked out.
Okay, so shit that you forgot. You warned me.
I should have warned you about how it was going to go down because I get a little ranty about things. So I should, like I said, some of the opinions are not very popular.
Yeah,
I'm old and I don't care. So
I'm married to a salty old man, so I am perfectly capable of having the conversation, and it's fine.
Okay. Wonderful. I have an echo. Do I have an echo?
That's what one of our listeners is saying out there.
I know. I'm waiting for him to sort that out. Let me know if I sound terrible. Second thing I forgot though, really quick, and then I will turn it over to you, Giddes, who missed some things who may have missed some stuff in the last episode.
Yeah.
Trying to cover everything. I forgot there was a weird period where basic Dungeons and Dragons and Advanced D&D coexisted at the same time. They printed material for both. People played both. And there was the origin of the edition wars. I think it's the oldest of them, anyways. But that's a piece that I forgot to mention from last time.
It was sort of a gateway too for younger aficionados. That's actually how I got started. Was my brother before Advanced, he had the white box, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Advanced set was out. They had played with the white box. It got ruined, and then he went to the store and bought me the blue cover with the full color box because he didn't want to buy me the books at the time. You know, he wasn't sure I was going to be into it that much, and then we all jumped into the books right from there. It was same time period.
Wonderful.
But we had to go to the store and get the guy to get the box out, the secret box. It'd say the password. It was creepy.
Well,
I wish I had those experiences. Like I said, last time, I didn't have those experiences with the earlier editions. I wish I did.
Yeah, well, like I said, I bought my first set of dice like it was a drug deal, and I had to hide them from my mother, who wouldn't buy me any books for like 2 Christmases because it was the debut. But beyond that, Giddes, you have some things you forgot from last time you want to cover?
Yeah. So I just wanted to clarify. We were talking about how I got into gaming, how we started playing D&D with my forever DM, and then we added that one player kind of mid-campaign. And I want to say that after last podcast, I realized I am not as articulate as I think I am. I think I'm communicating my ideas across, and then when I listen to them later, I go, oh yeah, no, that's not really what I meant, but it came across this way, and that happens a lot. Most of my best friends will know I say things that sound not the way that they mean.
Okay.
For example, I called my best friend hardly fat, which I thought was a good compliment, but apparently it wasn't. That means you're hardly fat when I was saying you're not fat at all. So those kind of things happen.
Would mostly skinny have been better?
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. Which way could you go on that to make that better?
So anyway, going back to the RP in our game, I wanted to clarify at least that there are people in our game that role play to a level that is great. I mean, their role play hasn't changed. I think it was more my perspective of our role playing in the game, or possibly my role play in the game was elevated because of that person coming in. But I just didn't want to. I wanted to make sure all the other players at our table know, like, their role playing is great and on par. It just was it was an eye opener for me when he joined the game. That role play could be something different. So I wanted to clarify that. And then also I wanted to add, when I talked about the short story that I got published, I mentioned scoutmediabooks.com, where you can find it, but you can also find it at Barnes & Noble, on Amazon, Google Books, Walmart, any online distributor of books, you can find it there as well. So I just wanted to
You
add
forgot
that.
the plug?
Well, I plugged the website, the
All right.
publisher who actually published my story.
Okay.
I forgot to mention that you can get it in other places as well.
All right, cool. All right, good.
So that's all I wanted to
I
add.
was listening to you guys last week. You know what you forgot? Minecraft Dungeons and Dragons came out last week. You guys didn't mention anything about that. I was a little hurt.
I didn't know about it until afterwards.
Oh my
Same.
gosh! Yeah,
I didn't see the news or the update until after the podcast. It was the very next day, and I went, "Ooh, I'm going to add that to your news."
But thanks for jumping the shark there, Doc. But Minecraft already had its own RPG version, like Minecraft Stories, and it's got classic video game Gauntlet Minecraft. You can play it at the arcade. Well, Dave and Buster's. There's not really arcades anymore, but
okay.
So it already had some crossovers. I thought it was covered.
That's true.
All right, I can't win with the camera and the lights. Either my microphone blocks, I have shadow on my face, or my head is shiny. I can't figure this shit out. I'm done looking at it.
Well, no, and it's funny too, because then when you go to operate the equipment, you're going off the hex. You're like, whoop.
Oh yeah, I know. I gotta zoom out, I guess. I don't know what the best way to do this is. We'll figure it out eventually, but
Yeah.
And I lean. My mic picks up sounds. I did a bunch of research on how to try to deaden some of the background stuff, and it's. I just need to stop being a mouth breather, I guess, and maybe that will fix my problem. Who knows?
I guess we'll find out.
Mm-hmm. But no, it's funny you mentioned. Oh, I'm off the camera. I'm gonna keep doing this all night long. Oh Lord, no! You mentioned the RPs. It's I think we talked about it before. I know I brought it up with friends before. There's different levels of it based on the player and comfort in the game and what they are and whatnot. So I mean, all of the levels of RP are fine as long as you are trying, you're comfortable, and you're having a good time. Whether
Yeah.
that's the lowest level where you're just like kind of describe what you want to do, like my character does. Hey, I want to do this. Can I do that kind of thing? All the way up to the scene stealing, overly dramatic attention whores like myself, trying to be as amazing as possible at any given time. So it takes all types, but no, you're I didn't take your story the wrong way. And if your friends are mad at you, well, that sucks for you.
No,
So,
they're not. Nobody even said anything. It was just me re-listening and going, "Oh gosh, I know I have that habit of things coming out and people taking it one
yep.
way."
No,
And I'm like, "No, that's not what I
I'm
meant
with
at all."
you, and
So,
I don't think I've said this in the podcast before. I'll try to summarize it, but I have a personality flaw. I have many of them. You may not have noticed, but one is which I have this compulsive need to like not feel stupid or be like the smartest guy in the room, and it leads to that exact same scenario where I say something like reflexively,
yeah.
so I don't look stupid, but it shits on other people. And I'm like, ooh, did not mean to do that. I'll tell you a funny story. We were out drinking at a pub crawl, and a guy who I didn't realize knew one of the guys I was with was kind of being shitty towards one of the people I game with, and all around good guy. And like I was trying to tell the guy to stop being a dick, and in my brain, which wasn't working so great, I threw out there, "Hey man, like what are you doing? It's this person." And he goes, "Oh, thanks, man. Like you shouldn't be worried about me. It's just me. Like, who gives a shit?" I'm like, "No, that's not what I meant. That's not. Fuck, I'm so sorry." So it
Yeah.
came out kind of dickish. So that wasn't a very good story. I realized after I told it because I didn't. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking now. Moving on in the notes, things that I hate. I'm gonna preface this right now. I hate myself this week, and it's for a reason that I'm going to disclose later. But we're just going to lead the show with the fact that I'm not a very big fan of myself today. I'll get to it. I'll get to it
Okay,
later.
we're gonna get
Oh,
back to it.
don't
We're gonna get back to it at the end.
don't
We're gonna
cry
get
for me,
back-
Argentina. It's okay.
We're gonna get back
I'm
to it
good.
at the end, right?
So
That's what you're telling us. We're
yeah,
gonna find
no,
out.
it's coming up relatively soon. It just so happens to work out. It's a little out of order today, but that's what I hate. I'll explain why in a few seconds. I guess we're moving on to the news then. So, I think there's only one big thing in the news this week for
Right.
D&D. Well, actually, there's a couple. I'm sorry,
D&D.
there's a couple of things. As Doc pointed out before we had a chance to do it, Minecraft has a D&D crossover. Doc, would you like to say anything about that before we talk about the big thing?
No, I kind of briefly mentioned it that there's the huge crossover with Minecraft. I think the other thing, really big thing outside just the game, is Shadow Dark. Just smashing it with their Kickstarter.
That Professor
Can you-
Dungeon, Professor DMs.
Thank you. I
No,
was going to say,
no.
I don't know what is this Shadow Dark? I don't know if I know
No,
about this.
this is not. He did an ad with her.
Okay,
it's
so I
with-
did see it on his channel, so I wasn't wrong about that.
It's a young lady. I don't have her name. She's her channel is the Arcane Library. She was a professional DM, and she wanted to bring back the old school dungeon crawl, and she wrote rules that are 5e adaptable. So you can take your 5e characters and go into this world, or you can just play the characters from this world. It definitely set up far more time limit, like your torches are in real time. So if you run out of torches, you're in the dark. No one has dark vision, is one of the big things in the game. And they're up to 900,000 in fundraising right now for their Kickstarter.
Wow.
And they're just smashing. It's really big return from the OGL madness and everyone saying, I'm going to go with a new game system. And then the other thing is, and I mentioned this on the show before, they have a great packet of lists. So if you're just like an on-the-fly DM, you could just buy this set and use, her book of lists is phenomenal and something she's put together from years of pro DMing and having something on hand. So
Awesome.
Nice. All right, well,
that's really, really, that's really big.
All right.
Well,
Let's get
I
into
was
the
going
big
to
news.
say, if you're about to go on to the big news, I just have one. It's attached
Yep.
to the big news, but it's a small thing.
Go ahead.
Real quick. Do you guys remember? I think it was, I don't know, it might have been in the 80s, late 70s. No, late 80s. McDonald's had those little toys that you could get in a Happy Meal called changeables that looked like the little meal items that could
Yes,
transform into things. Do you
yes.
remember these?
Vaguely.
I used to collect them a lot. I loved them. I think my mother has the collection right now. But along with the movie release, I saw that they are releasing toys that are D20s that transform. I think they're called Diceables. They might be Diceables. I'm
Yes, I think
totally
you're calling them Diceables.
but they
Yes.
they are D20s that transform into monsters. Like yeah, I think they have dragons, a couple mimics, some other things, and I'm just excited about them because it's going to take me back to collecting those little McDonald's toys. So you might see those. Well, you probably won't see all this stuff in the future, but I will have them on my shelves.
Yeah, some of the YouTubers that got the prize packs were sharing those
Oh
a
man, I
couple of
want one
weeks ago.
so bad.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
that's it. Now we can move on to the big news.
All right. Well, a movie came out the other day. We all had homework. Everyone's done their homework, I assume.
Everyone's done their homework. Yes.
All right.
Everyone
Well,
has done their
let me start by shaking the very foundations of this show. I didn't hate the movie, and I hate myself for not hating it.
So this is the things you hate. You hate yourself for not
Yeah.
hating the movie.
No, I've been miserable about it ever since yesterday. I knew I was going to have to come on here and be like, "There's a thing I didn't despise," and I'm going to have to eat crow about that. But it's okay because no one can snatch defeat from the jaws of victory like Wizards
All
of
right,
the Coast.
before we dive into this really
Yep.
really deep,
Spoilers, by the
and-
way, for anybody listening.
Yeah.
what you just said, Merwin, before we go into the movie, you know the I think the Scottish woman from Dungeons and Discourse, the YouTuber. You definitely enjoy her show. We've been talking about her before. She did a review. We were talking about earlier about seeing different reviews of the movie,
Mhm.
and her review of the movie. She went back and sort of just did a review of the 2000 movie, but had clips of the new. Like it was very confusing to me. Did you see this at all?
That one I did not see.
Okay. All right. Before we go there, if you guys could take a look at that one and maybe explain to me what her sarcasm is going at. I don't always get her. So
Did
thank
you
you.
see the 2000 movie?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I actually wanted to watch it again just to have like the comparison.
No, I don't think you need
My
to.
husband refused.
Just don't.
No. They're not. They're definitely not comparable movies, and I could definitely go into that. But let's talk about this movie.
Well, all right.
Like,
So how do we want to do this? Do we want to go all goods, all bads? Do we want to go all bads, all goods? Do we want to go with the standard shit sandwich approach, where it's a good thing, all the bad things, and a good thing to finish, so we feel warm and fuzzy about it? What do you kids feel like?
I feel like there will be more to discuss and hash out on the bad stuff than there is on the good stuff, right? Everyone's going to agree this is good, this is good, this is good. We can't really hash that out much more. So maybe we start with the good and then
Okay.
go to the bad.
All right.
Real quick for everyone. Spoilers. Okay.
I think if you have a stash of signs back there, you should get a stop sign and a slow sign and a wrong way sign, and then you can just kind of correct me visually as we go.
Okay.
You
I've
just
tried
hold it
that.
up.
It doesn't
and
work.
it's
I tried sign language. Nothing
I'll just start.
works.
Yeah, I'll start making signs and holding them up.
Yeah, I ignore you, Doc. So that's
I know.
That's
I see
why.
that. I see that. Okay.
All right, let me. Since I got to eat shit here, let me start with this. I'll get it out of the way. Didn't suck. I have a thing I refer to as I've been referring to as the D+ing of
Yeah, you
media.
talked about that last week.
Yeah, which is short version. They Disneyfy it in some way, shape, or form, and they stick to what one of the reviews I watched from the Critical Drinker refers to as the message with sound effects. I really expected that this was going to take a hard turn into that, and that was what I was expecting and what I was going to be mad about. And it did not do that. So good job. It did stick to the basic Disney plotline of hating mothers and killing family members off.
Yes, yes.
Twice, in fact, in the same movie, it decided to do that because they wanted to go extra deep on the mouse. But all in all, they were pretty tame with some of the political messaging, which I was really both surprised and happy about. And we can
What
get
were
in.
you expecting? What do you mean by political?
All right, so okay, well, if we're gonna let me talk more, I certainly will. All right, so D+ing is the hallmark of D+ing is the following things. It is lazy/bad writing, so that the predetermined plot points and story beats, which support the message, have to happen. Things, and then the hallmarks of the D+ing is any existing male character has to be made to look like a moron the entire show, has to be saved by the female characters. The new characters inserted are always better than any existing legacy character. And they do this thing where they like assume you're a moron, and the dialogue is just either just brutal exposition, and like it's like idiot text. Like just because we know you can't figure out what's going on, it's this. So lazy bad writing, destroying legacy characters, and that kind of dialogue and storytelling, right? So what I expected here was that you were going to get a couple of things. You were going to get Chris Pine's Bard was going to be just an inept, ineffectual, useless, butt of the joke, constantly being saved by the barbarian all the time, and that there'd be nothing to the character except that he'd just be an absolute moron, right? Fail at everything, kind of thing. I thought that was going to happen, and then I really thought that they were going to do the dialogue nonsense, where they were like pointing out the jokes and pointing out the in-game stuff, and like I skip ahead of the good stuff. The whole heist scene with the portal, fucking amazing, right?
Right.
That's the kind of thing where I'd expect them to have like a 3-minute scene where they explain why everything works the way it is and how they're going to do it, and then they do it.
Okay. Yeah.
And you're like I see what you're doing. Like I can kind of figure it out. I don't need you to tell me what I'm going to look at on the screen.
Right.
That's my big knock against Lord of the Rings. It's a mountain of fire. A bad guy probably lives like, I don't need Galadriel to tell me that. I can see the mountain of fire on the screen. I know what's going on.
Now, I want to stop for a second. I want to stop for a second because I think there is a part too where I felt like the movie really portrayed as if people were playing the game. The example, like the mirror falls on the mirror falls down on the floor. DM does this to screw the players, and then one player's like, "No, I'm going to sit here with my knife, and I'm going to get through here, and I'm going to be a goddamn worm." Like, there were points in the movie that I thought were so, very, very player driven. I in a few of they talked about all the characters having a story arc, which is what Dungeons and Dragons is supposed to be. Each character is supposed to have a story arc. But the thing I really saw was the two schools of thought. Watching all the movie reviews from the sci-fi movie reviewers, not necessarily the D&D players, kudos. They love it. It's great. Maybe even better than a Marvel movie. Can't wait for the new stuff coming out. It was really tappable for the new industry. And then you hear someone like Professor Dungeon Master who's like, I hated it. There's this, it was terrible. There wasn't enough of this, and there wasn't enough of that.
I was really hoping I was going to get to be in that camp, but I unfortunately couldn't be. But to sort of finish let me finish my goods, and I will shut up while you say the words. But no, so it didn't do that. It had a good story. It had good beats for the characters. You didn't look at Edgin the Bard as being a moron. Like I really felt bad for him, kind of thing. And I actually thought I thought they were gonna really kick in the dick, and that tablet actually just be a tablet of wealth, and that he didn't know that, so it would never have worked, which would have been like, oh man, what a dick move. Right. But all of them had that thing. So that was
No, and it's true. It's true what you said too, because I was worried about Chris Pine being Kirk and dropping the Kirk lines, and at some point, it suspended my belief that he was not Kirk anymore, and he was this other character. And he did do a good job there, I have to say.
Yeah, definitely like that. So, so that was good. And then they could have taken the easy out, and the reference to the barbarian's husband could have just been another chick. That's 100% what I was expecting. Or
I was also expecting that, or
I was expecting that when Simon brought up that he was trying to court the druid, that she was going to be like, "Oh no, I don't jive on no swine. I'm only down with the ladies," kind of thing. I was expecting that, and they didn't do that, and I'm like, okay, and for the record, I wouldn't. For the record, I wouldn't have cared. I don't care.
Right.
Like ultimately, but it's one of those things where it's like, okay, so some executive came down and said, all right, well, hey, I like your script, but we got to hit this box, check this box, check this box. Oh, got to have this in here. And they very easily could have done that, and they didn't do it with any of the characters.
All right, but wait, while you're talking about her companion, Bradley Cooper makes the cameo appearance. Also, not showing up in the cast list for his cameo, which I thought was kind of funny.
Well, we're going to save the Bradley Cooper thing for the part about the movie that sucked, so.
Oh, no, I just want, I got to know.
I like Bradley Cooper.
No, we're doing it. Will you stop? For once, it's you getting off track. I'm trying to get my goods out, and you keep stopping me.
You just said the relationship, so I just wanted to know what the hell he was. Go ahead.
I believe the term is fuck puppet. I think is what we're going to use him for. Too much. What do they say? It's too much snoo. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
You get that reference?
Is that from Futurama?
Yes, it is. I expected this. Yeah. Now if they'd had him in a little body cast, like shuffling around, that'd have been hilarious. But anyways, but yeah, good. And not every joke landed, but not everything was a joke. And they didn't play the story for laughs. And then my last thing is, while the ending had a predictable element to it, it wasn't done in the D+ way, and that really, for me, saved the ending sequence of that movie. Although they did definitely steal the little homage to the MCU there at the end, which I thought was okay, maybe not necessarily needed, but it was good. Those are the things I found good about the movie. The rest of my list is all things I'm going to shit on it for. I will let you talk, Doc. What good things did you find in the movie?
No, I'm not even going to go there. I think
you have no good things?
No, I thought there were a lot of good things in the movie. Sorry.
Well, give us a couple. Come on. That's what we're doing.
I have more questions than good things in the movie, but I will go there. The first thing was the cinematography and the scenery that they picked out, whether it's CGI or whatever it is. They made sure that every scene hit like a fantasy background, which I thought was really good, and really brought you to different locales right away and engaged you. The creature selection that they put in was outstanding. It's nice to see the displacer beasts, the mimics, but I felt like there was a lot more to see. But they did do a good job. The gelatinous cube. I mean, who doesn't love a gelatinous cube? I mean,
right.
It wasn't green.
I don't.
Is that a gripe for you?
I was going to say.
They're supposed to be. They're translucent. They're see-through.
This is the part I don't like. I have to say good things, but he can bitch now while I'm talking. You see, this is the part I don't like.
You see how this works?
No, I don't see how this works. But anyway, go ahead.
No, they're supposed to be translucent. I like how they look when they're like the green color, but I know that's inaccurate. So, anyways,
my big question is at the tournament. Okay, whatever you want to call it. I call it the tournament. I don't think that's what it's called in the movie. There's 3 parties there, right? The Dungeons and Dragons 2023 is there. The cartoon group is there. And then there is a third party there. Do you know who the third party is, Grom?
I don't actually. I was going to do some research and look for it.
Research. I did not find anything.
And I forgot. The closest I can think of is that because you only really see two of them. You see the chick in black and you see the dwarf, right?
Right. That's what I'm
So
saying.
my only thoughts is that they look a lot like the descriptions of two of the Forgotten Realms gods, which is like Garl Glittergold, who's like the actually the gnomish inventor god, and then the chick kind of looks like Shar, which is the goddess of night for the Forgotten Realms. But I don't actually know who they are. I should have gone through and looked at the cast list. Actually, while Giddes gives us her goods, I'm going to look at the cast list and see if I can figure it out.
I don't think those parties are listed on the cast list. That's what I'm talking about. Bradley Cooper not being listed on the cast list.
They hide. Tom Morello, the guitar player for Rage Against the Machine, is also in the movie, and they don't. And that was my geek. I'm like, that's Tom Morello. Anyways.
Where was Tom Morello in the movie?
He was the dude. It was in the stands during the tournament when they had the close up of him and the girl. There, the random fan. That little bit, that was Tom Morello.
Okay.
All right. So things I liked about the movie. One, I actually appreciated. Well, okay, yeah, I'm gonna say this. Yeah, I actually appreciated that they kind of had a quick start to the movie, quick intros on the characters. Just kind of, fed you the info you needed, didn't need to blather on about it so that people kind of got bored about, oh, why do I care about this person's backstory? Why do I care about this person's backstory? It was very quick, here they are, here's what they're about, on to the next person, on to the next.
Now, did you notice where they were in that first scene?
You're going to have to remind me about the first scene.
Well, they were in the glacier in Icewind Dale.
See.
Yes.
Okay. And as I say, not being a module person.
Not being a module person, I did have to do research. Once they said Icewind Dale, I recognized the name, but yeah, I haven't played the module, right?
So I thought that was a nice little tip right away.
Yeah. To the
fans.
Yeah. Icewind, and it's twofold. Most people probably know it from the Drist books. That's where they're set at, up in the frozen north there. Gamers who have the setting, it's one of my favorite settings, so I'm familiar with the map and everything. But one of the best old school D&D games was set in Icewind Dale, and it was it Baldur's Gate 2?
And we can go into that later too.
Icewind Dale. It might have been called Icewind Dale, but anyways, there was a game set there. Continue on.
So that was very cool that was the opening. Go back to you, Giddes. Go ahead.
It's just one of those things, especially for people who are new to D&D or who have no idea what D&D is about. The last thing they want to hear is this long, drawn-out backstory about, here's my backstory, here's why I do this, here's this land. So I appreciated that because when you take people with you who aren't necessarily into D&D, they can still enjoy the movie, right?
True.
I also enjoyed just the pacing of the movie. While I personally would have appreciated a little bit more in depth with each character and with each quest that they were on, I did like that you could kind of, I think you mentioned it, Doc, too, kind of you get this feel that, this is the first part of their quest, this is the second part of their quest, and you kind of got the feel of the campaign throughout the entire movie.
Right.
You could feel the chunks of quests in between.
And that's what I keep thinking is a good thing about this movie, is just like in a D&D game, we will learn more about these characters in their next adventure.
Right. I have predictions. If they do decide to make another movie, I have predictions.
Yeah, everybody's already like, what's this character do? What's this character do? And even the Paladin was a side quest.
I don't think that there will be a sequel to the movie. As far as the part, yes, I don't, and that's part of my things that were bad about it.
And I'm gonna actually completely disagree with you.
It's okay. You have the right to be wrong.
I think the fact that they went the Red Wizard route, and they really set up a bigger dark baddie to continue. I think they really did leave it open, and I do think the guys that put it together, they're ready to do a second one. I don't think that's out of the question. I think the big one right now is the box office, and my other thought is the returning box office. I know opening box office was not good, but I'm really wondering what return is. And the other thing that's really huge about this that no one's taking into consideration is streaming, because they made it accessible on Amazon Prime early. They made it accessible on Paramount.
I think like
So
Apple TV too. I don't
yes,
know.
I mean you distributed out your moviegoers in the first place, but I think it's turning into a movie scene. My daughter is case in point. I took her, and she has already said, "Dad, I want to go back, and I'm getting my friends. We're going to go back." So when we went to Star Wars as kids and we went to see something in the movie theaters, that's the only place you could go back and see it again. The fact that people are dressing up and getting 20-sided dice and mugs, it sort of has that feel again. Now, post-pandemic and everything is kind of slowing that down. And my last point I want to make here is I was very impressed, and I don't know about you guys. They opened with the actors in their acting chairs, thanking everyone for coming to the movie
Oh,
theater.
that was like a
Yeah, that was
fucking
great.
hostage video. That was terrible. Really? You guys thought that was
No,
great?
no, I did not think that was a hostage video at all.
I didn't know I was going to church to get preached at. Like I'm glad. I'm happy I'm here. And I don't need you to
No,
remind
I
me.
don't think that was true at all. I think that
Oh.
was more of a real sincere, like, hey, you didn't need to come here to see this movie. And that's the way I felt. I see, you're just a grumpy old man. Jesus Christ.
Yep.
Hey, you know what? No, but he admitted that he liked or that he didn't hate the
Right,
movie.
which is
So
as
we're
close to a
making
like as you're gonna
time.
get out of me. Hey, real quick. So they do name the original D&D characters from the cartoon, but all of the cast, all of the character names for the other people are just Dragonborn, Wizard, Barbarian, Cleric, Rogue, Ranger. They actually don't even have names.
Hmm.
I'm still wondering if you can link them up. Did you guys hear any rumors of Mercer
No,
was supposed to something
no,
about
they came out and said that they had come out afterwards and said that they are in no way affiliated with, involved with, or in the movie at all in any way, shape, or form.
Did you guys catch though? I was actually surprised. So when they kept mentioning fresh cut grass,
That we think is that everyone thinks is a callback to the show.
right?
That's
And
the
I was
only
like,
one.
wait a minute, did they really do that? No. Like, did they do that intentionally or was that on accident? Wait a minute. And I do kind of believe that it is a callback to that, which is
Well, I was reading something about the sorcerer that one of the characters in Critical Role had a similar. Did he have like a dating issue or something? Is that?
what the
No,
I'm not
sorcerer?
a Critical Role fan.
No, the sorcerer in the movie has the same last name as Elminster,
Okay.
the
Yeah.
most the primary the big character in the
In
setting.
the setting, so it's just
Which if you've ever looked at Ed Greenwood, he looks just like Elminster. So not a coincidence. Probably not a coincidence. But yeah, I would think it was a callback to the movie. So all right.
Now I did like the Monty Python-esque questions to the dead.
Yeah, that was great.
Um,
That was good.
Well, let me tell you something. So I think that sequence was a little long. The jokes, it was a little bit long.
Kind
Kind
of
of lost its humor.
Family Guy-esque where they just kind of keep drawing it out.
But here's the thing. The first one they talked to, classic Dick DM move. Everything he says is a
Right.
question. I'm like,
That's what I'm
that shit
saying.
was hilarious. That
That
was
was
great. That was great. Talking to the guy who fell before the battle and never knew what happened. That was good. And then the last one was good. There were like three in the middle that like, okay, we get the joke.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing I thought was kind of intriguing, and I don't know, you guys play D&D, and as a DM, a lot of the battle scenes, I thought about, oh, well, what's the initiative here?
Hmm.
And I noticed it was barbarian versus everyone.
Right.
It started to turn into always one owl bear versus everyone.
Yeah. That's part of my gripes that I was going to get into.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. You
No,
can-
no.
Yeah,
that's fine.
except for the final fight sequence,
Right.
it is like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I thought that was a little strange to me, but then again, I always talk about people role playing. You don't always have to take the attack action when you're in melee,
Right.
and that's just everybody always. And you could just have the barbarian being the only person taking the attack action,
Right.
and getting ahead of these guys who might be really slow, low level whatevers.
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm still want to know, what was Bradley Cooper? What species would Bradley
Like, was
Cooper?
he halfling? Was he gnome?
What
Kind of
what
thing.
what was
Well,
that?
okay, so that gnome love story tops my list of the worst things in the movie, and
Was he
that
actually a
scene
gnome?
is 100% why I hate gnomes. It was so ridiculous and
See, but that's
like
I don't think
that's
he was
not.
a gnome.
He was not a gnome. See,
I don't
that's
think
what
he
I'm
was a
saying.
gnome.
There was no.
he's a
That
gnome.
was no. Not only was he not a gnome. Let's talk about bad
Did,
things in the movie.
did you see?
Okay.
Did you
So
see? Did
that
you
was
see it?
the worst forced perspective I have seen since Bride of Frankenstein, 1939. It was atrocious, forced, and they didn't give him anything. They didn't give him ears. They didn't give him a nose. They didn't give him eyebrows.
Yeah, it was very.
It
It
That's
was
was.
inauspicious. What is he? Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I guess here, how about this? We can nitpick the shitty CGI all day long. Was there anything more fucking ridiculous and horrifying than the shitty tabaxi and that
was
that
bad.
weird jerky animatronic baby? Like, I would have left that shit back. I would have shoved that back in a fish.
Okay, so here's the thing: is I appreciate they were trying to scale back on all the CGI and do some animatronics, but that was bad. That was kind of cringy. That tabaxi didn't look like a
Well,
tabaxi.
and here's my thing: you couldn't get a 4 or 5 year old actor and do good makeup on them.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
that was
like
great.
I was
Well,
going to say, I've
hold
seen
on.
no, I've seen Doctor Who. Do
Wait, no. When
people
Cats
faces
came out,
like,
when Cats came out in the movie theater, everyone thought it was horrible, and I'm curious now.
well,
to
that's because
think
the cats
they
had
didn't want to
buttholes.
do
That's
it
why.
because of Cats.
Well, but Cats was a fucking CGI nightmare. That's what it was. You could have done that well with practical effects. I will. The Dragonborn, like, they looked like the shitty puppets from Dark Crystal.
Right.
Like, it looked like they went down to the local costume store and grabbed 3 dragon person heads and put them on some dude in a fat suit. That's what those look like. They look terrible.
They didn't look as bad as the cat.
They
Though. That was pretty bad.
No, the Tabaxi was the worst. The Tabaxi baby was my my daughter went in cosplay as her Tabaxi character, so ears and
that's
tail and everything.
awesome.
Yeah, she made healing potions because it was a clever way to hide movie snacks and sneak them into the theater. So good on her for being a rogue. I love it. But yeah, we got to that part. And she's like, I'm like, oh look, I go, hey, she was, are there gonna be Tabaxi in here? I go, there's got to be one somewhere. And it was right before that scene, and she goes, oh my god, that Tabaxi looks horrible. I go, yeah, I know. And then they pull the baby out of the fish. She goes, that thing is awful. That is the ugliest, most. She was shitting on the movie
Horrified.
at full volume in the middle of a full theater, and I was just loving it.
that's why there was no real kid. They probably did not want to pull a real kid out of that fish and have to deal with like somebody being like, what did that kid actor go through? Probably
Nothing.
something.
They crawled in a fake fish for 8 seconds.
Yeah.
I still very disappointed they did not specify what he was. Now, there was there was on the council in the jail, the woman on the left.
The very small woman.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, halfling or no, they don't clarify.
Yeah.
But now, was she smaller than Bradley Cooper's character? See, that's what I was trying to say. Was Bradley Cooper was supposed to be a halfling?
You know what? Well, here's the thing. You know what the
She was supposed to be the gnome.
Well,
That's what I'm trying to see. Were they trying to portray both?
Well, you know what the problem was though? They put her next to the fucking shitty Dragonborn on the council. So I couldn't tell if she was too small. I thought he was just big.
I couldn't tell until the end.
And then the second shot of her, yeah.
The second
Yeah.
shot of her. So that's what I was wondering. Was she shorter? And again, that's what I'm saying. Very bad forced perspective.
Yeah.
Which that's kind of disappointing. That's
Well,
something.
To be
Yeah.
fair, I mean, in the scene, okay, maybe with Holga and Bradley Cooper, to the scene, maybe it could have been important, like what he is because of lore and history or whatnot. But for that particular scene where they're in the Icewind Dale,
Yeah.
like whatever she is, probably not important to the scene,
Correct,
so they
correct.
wouldn't go into that. But yeah, definitely curious to know. Just yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe just to know.
Yeah. I'm like I said, I'm pretty sure that they meant him to be a halfling, but I don't know.
Okay,
It was
But you
dumb.
don't like him anyway
Let's
because
think
you
of
think he's a gnome.
Smog.
No, so here's the thing. Here's the thing. He didn't have hairy feet. Okay, hold on. Let's break this down. He was wearing shoes, so no hairy feet,
Right.
and he wasn't pudgy, portly, or homely, and his place didn't look terribly comfortable. He didn't have food everywhere. There was no 11s or second breakfast. Definitely not a halfling.
Right. What?
He's a gnome.
No, I thought you were going to say he's not a gnome.
He's definitely a gnome,
Yeah.
which is why it's the worst thing in the movie. like again, because again, I had this argument in our Discord. So here's my problem with it. So look at that scene. So according to the rules, he can have an 18 strength. She could have a 17. He's technically stronger than her. That would be ridiculous, but it can happen in the game.
No, Adam.
But no, that would
our
make it work
listeners
because
are
then
saying
how are they going to
halfling.
have a relationship?
Listeners
It doesn't
Unless
make
he's
it work.
stronger than her.
It's a problem. It's dumb. It's immersion breaking. I would take an army of Tabaxi robot baby cats before I took one of them dipshits in my
Now,
movie.
this is my thought. I wonder if that is actually halfling, and they are separating halfling from hobbit as just a little person now.
Well, that'd be dumb because that's stupid. So,
I think that may be
For
the
reasons.
route
Good
they're going
argument.
with this.
Yes.
I think that's the route they're going with this because I think gnomes are smaller.
Than
well,
halfling.
that's my point. Gnomes used to be slightly smaller than dwarves, bigger than halflings, and somehow they've become garden gnomes all of a sudden, which is dumb as shit. All right, so yeah,
Moving on to other things.
all right, moving on. Yeah, I could play about the gnome all day long. So the CGI was rough in some spots, like all the epic travel scenes, like you couldn't pay for a helicopter to record these people on horses, like you had to CGI that. It looked fucking terrible.
No, I don't think
maybe I
I don't
didn't
think
see that.
they'll look bad.
Yeah, so all the scenes where they're on horseback, like riding across the countryside, are all CGI. Bad CGI. It's obvious that it's not a real people on horses riding across the countryside.
It wasn't obvious to me, but
Oh yeah,
I didn't have my glasses on. However,
there you go.
didn't notice.
So to Doc's point though, I don't think the backgrounds and the environments weren't terrible. Some of the fight stuff was a little chunky, and like I said, the Jim, mixing CGI characters with Jim Henson's Muppets is probably not the way to go overall. But my biggest bad in the whole movie though is that there was lazy writing. It didn't reach the bad level, but there was some lazy writing that. I get that they did it because they wanted to put a certain amount of stuff in the film. Mm-hmm. So, but there were a lot of things where like the continuity was off because they just ended up places they needed to be at, like, and it felt like instantly, or with no passage of time in the world. They didn't do that. They didn't establish the time very well in anything, unfortunately.
I mean, there were clips where they're riding horses, but maybe that wasn't all the time. So yeah.
Yeah, and then it just jumps from like thing to thing to thing, and then it's of course everything is just a little bit too convenient. It's just the way
Well,
something.
again, that's to keep that pacing. The same thing. You could say, have a scene where they're going through the forest before they got to the cemetery, like Lord of the Rings with this big sprawling. But then you just said it. They had these crappy backgrounds, so you can't feature that.
No, I got you.
Go right to the cemetery, and feature the dead. The dead.
Yeah, but I thought the final fight was good. I like I do like the spell effects and everything.
I like the way they also kind of presented dragons in different formats. They had the big red fat dragon.
Yeah, which I got to say, that's another one of those things. Like I wanted to hate Thunder Chad, but I didn't. And apparently, and I didn't know this. That's a take on the lore for the actual dragon. So supposedly it's it's an ancient great worm who spends his time just eating people and is like just ridiculous, just some ridiculous monstrosity of a dragon. Technically didn't have to be Garfield in a dragon costume. That's a little bit different. Then we got
to see the one at the battlefield when they did the flashback of the battle. They had the black dragon shooting the acid, not black holes, by the way. And then they had the stone dragon thing that they fought. What would you call that? Would you call that a...
Well, no, she animated a statue. That's what that was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stone
but
Dollar.
no, I have to mention, so right after we left the theater, when I went to go see it with my husband and my son made me so proud because I didn't know how much D&D lore he knew, but he educated me on the fat dragon lore. And I was like, All right. I did good. I'm a good mom. All right. That's all.
Yep. Yeah, like I said, my proudest moment was when my kid was yelling and calling out things in the movie in the theater, and I'm like, I've done my job well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I said, so there's a little bit of lazy writing. Things had to happen. Good on that. So, I think we all did. Like, I mean, they didn't really do much to hide the ending. Like they hid the opening gag with waiting for Jonathan to show up. They did
Right.
they did a good job of hiding that. They did a
Yes.
great job with the whole heist thing with the mirror. That was so well done.
Why didn't you mention this before when we were talking about good things?
Because Doc interrupted me like 46 times. So,
No, I didn't.
but
Go ahead.
the way the movie ended it wasn't bad. Like I said, this is what I was talking about. I mentioned this earlier. It wasn't poorly done. But if you didn't know that the daughter having the invisibility necklace was going to play a major role, and that of course her surrogate mom was going to be the one to get killed and brought back. If you had to know it was coming.
Yeah.
There was no way that wasn't how the movie was going to end. So that was a little bit like, really, like, come on, like, can we really?
I didn't see it. Once I saw that she was hurt, I went, oh, okay. I see where this is going. But before that happened, I had no guess that Holga would have gotten hurt.
Yeah, I think that was and I hadn't thought of Holga getting, until it came back. Everyone was like, "Where's Holga?" I was with the party, like, "Oh my God, what happened to Holga?" So
Yeah.
they got me.
Yeah, my reaction was different. I'm like, oh wait, she got stabbed. I could give a shit. So, and I'm like, but of course there's no way they were bringing his wife back, and this is one of those Disney things, and they've done it. And I try to think of the other movie they did it in, but they did it in Onward. Remember that movie?
Yep.
Awesome movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they pushed this message at the end of that movie that your actual parents don't matter. It's who you think is your parent that matters, which is why the younger brother didn't talk to the dad, even though he had never talked to him. He hadn't seen him since he was a kid, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because the older brother was my dad, and this one was, I don't care if my mom comes back. Helga's my mom, and it's like,
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, wouldn't that be realistic though?
Say you don't.
This is why I'm not shitting on it entirely.
Right.
It makes sense because her mom was dead when she was an infant. I get that.
Right.
I get that. Totally makes sense. It's just a little. Again, it's just a lazy writing because we want to sell this kind of thing. Okay.
Okay, so what about the blue dragonfly?
What about that?
Is
The
mo-
representation
is,
that is
is it a
mom?
representation, or is the mother's spirit actually there as an animal?
Well,
I
they
mean-
did bring who was it? It was the paladin, I think, who mentioned something of why would you want to bring her back to this life when she's now in the next life or something to that effect. And I think that ties in with the dragonfly, that now she's a dragonfly or she's moved on to something else, I think it's more up to
So for all we know, the Red Wizards could have captured her soul and be tormenting her eternally as an undead. But whatever. Just let her stay that way. It's fine.
You never know, right? It's up to interpretation.
Hey, that could be there. There's your plot right there.
No,
man.
this is my thing. Wouldn't that have been a much cooler outcome?
Because you see, this is it. They went after him because he stole the Red Wizard money, right? Got the wife, and now they just took out a Red Wizard. Now they're even more wanted by the Red Wizards.
Yeah, but see, again, that's an example of lazy writing. So because you need to have the plot device. Yeah, no, it is. Listen,
no, it's
because
not. I'm going to kill them, DM. That's
because
not,
you need to have his wife dead for your plot to work. The Red Wizards they go on this. They travel thousands of miles on horseback to enact their vengeance on one Harper and decide to just stab the wife, not look for a baby, even though there's clearly a crib and baby stuff there, and then not kill the Harper they're waiting for?
Because there's a bigger plot with this.
No, that's the thing is there wasn't.
But there could be. I mean, that's exactly what I'm talking about right now.
No.
He's stolen their
There
money.
could be hidden lore, right?
No.
That maybe in the next movie, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You know, now that goes back. Now him being an oath. What was that? An oath, whatever.
He was a Harper.
Yeah,
He was a Harper,
goes,
yeah.
Is that 3.5? Does that go back to 3?
What do you know? What do you know? No,
No.
Harpers they're part of the lore. It's a secret society of rangers, bards, and spies.
Okay, but that was in the rules set at some point too, right? Like that was like a booklet in the rules set.
Well, it was an organization, and you could join them, and they were very active. Elminster's one of the higher ups in the Harpers, and
Yeah.
the original mod. Sorry, excuse me.
I'm just saying that
The original module.
There seems to be a lot more lore built into it not to continue the story, and I do feel like there's a lot more building of the characters that can happen too.
Well, the thing is, there's a ton of lore because they set it in Forgotten Realms, which is a 40-year-old setting with just volumes of stuff written. Like Ed Greenwood is Tolkienian in his world building, and he keeps doing it.
Well, we could talk about that later too, but that's what I'm saying. I don't think they're going to walk away from that. What you just said, it's Tolkienian in
Scope,
capacity, scope, and media is going to consume it, and that's why this is all happening. You'll see.
No, I'm telling you. So here's the thing: they shut down and have been trying to sell their movie studio halfway through production of the film. They are not. They need to gross $300 million to make their money back. They're not going to do that. And Hasbro sucks. And there's no way that they're going to do anything. Anything good's going to come out of this. It's not. You're never going to get a sequel. Or if you do, it's going to be one of those shitty straight to streaming things. So go ahead.
Okay, sorry. No, as the chocolate vanilla swirl of you two, I am torn. I feel like it's going to be a 50-50 chance, and here's why. Because they know that Hasbro, Wizards of the Coast, know that they screwed up right before the movie with the OGL nonsense, right?
Yep.
And I feel like they could potentially take that into account and go, yeah, that's why we didn't make a lot of money. Could have done better, but we messed this up. And they may consider doing another movie. That's why I'm kind of on the fence. I feel like if they hadn't done the OGL nonsense, they would have done better, and they know that, and so they may try again, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah. If they were smart, and they're definitely not, they would have put more named characters in there for people to recognize. But also, instead of having a random party in the maze, wouldn't it have been cool to see the Mighty Nine or Vox Machina show up?
Or yeah,
as the other party in the arena? How cool would that have been?
Right. Speaking, okay. Yep. Now, I don't know if we can move on. If anybody else has any other.
I've shit on the movie enough. Let's move on.
Okay. So here's my gripe, because I do have a lot of friends. I mean, of the friends that I have, very few are into D&D, right?
Yep. I saw your post about this, by the way. I'm very sad for you.
What?
I saw your post about this. I'm very sad for you.
So here's the thing. If their intent is to put out this movie to draw new people in and go, this is interesting, what's D&D? Let's play D&D. I'm concerned because the action economy for a lot of these characters is just really outbalanced. Like you mentioned earlier, Doc, you mentioned the barbarian just going ham with 5, 6, 7 different opponents, and that would not happen with the druid wild shaping over and over again, which I know is a hot topic all over the internet, right? I think, honestly, those are the two that I think where their action economy was just really outdone. It makes me wonder if these people who come into the movie and go, this is interesting, I want to try it, they're going to try D&D, and they're going to get really frustrated when they go, why can't I do this? I saw it in the movie. Why can't I do this? I should be able to do all of this. I saw it in the movie. And then they're going to be disappointed when they get explained the rules and, oh, you really can't do that. Along with that, I was kind of upset with seeing, I know you were talking about Ed Gein, the bard, being like, supposed to be this bumbling idiot who doesn't get anything done and gets to get saved. I went into the movie not thinking that was going to happen, and I felt that happened to me because he's supposed to be. Honestly, I left that movie going, is he a bard or is he a rogue? I'm not sure, and I know from D&D Beyond, because they released the stat blocks for
Yeah.
these characters, right? That he's a bard, and yet they highlight all the druid's capabilities, the sorcerer's capabilities, the barbarian's capabilities, and this bard, if anything, does maybe like cutting words, some inspiration, but they don't really highlight it to show you this is what he's doing. So to me, I feel like he was really a non-essential character other than he was driving the plot.
He was the
He did
MacGuffin.
nothing. He didn't
Yes.
really do anything. And so that was frustrating to me because especially on the heels of Critical Role and Vox Machina,
Mhm.
they're highlighting bards. People are playing bards. People love bards. You don't even show what a bard can do. I mean, you're showing magic left and right, but the bard, like, you're playing that down. And that was really interesting to me because to me, it felt like either you're a really imbalanced party with a barbarian and a druid that's super high level and a bard that's like low level and incapable, or you're just showing what you want to show. And that, I don't know, it just didn't feel right to me. So I was frustrated with that.
I
Yeah, I
guess
think-
I took it as he is presenting the story,
Right.
as the bard. So I guess that's the way I just felt. The story was laid around him, and I didn't necessarily see him as a bard.
But he's
Uh,
labeled as a bard anyway in the character sheet. So
Well, and again, yeah, but I didn't really see him as that. And then I think about the title, Honor Among Thieves. And then I think about it, they were all thieves in the beginning,
right.
and he turns around and really the honor is really thrust upon him when when the paladin makes him take the oath that he has to give the treasure back. He doesn't want to. And then even when the treasure is given back, it's the hither mirror
Yeah.
that spills it out into the crowd. So again, that's where I see there's more to his story arc now that he sort of gave up his wife.
Right.
And
And not
sort
to
of-
say that I dislike his character. No, I loved his character. I just felt like if their intention was to highlight all these different class abilities, they really neglected to show what he could do
I don't
other
think
than
that.
to drive the story.
Yeah, I don't think that was their purpose at all. I think their purpose
Yeah.
was to make a Marvel-y movie about Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what the purpose was. And it's funny because you can hear that from the nerds and the movie reviewers. The movie reviewers think it was great because it was something new than a Marvel movie, and the
Right.
geeks hated it because it's Thanos all over again. But you could say,
Actually-
It looks a lot more like Jesus God. It looks a lot more like Vecna from Stranger Things than Thanos.
well, no,
I got
and-
some
and-
real strong copy and Stranger Things kind of vibes from that.
well, and that's the other
I was
thing.
gonna say I got Thanos vibes from that last fight because there was at one point where there's two characters holding the Red Wizard's arms apart, and I immediately thought of the Thanos fight when they're trying to keep him from like snapping his fingers. That it is so funny that you mentioned that. I hadn't thought about it until I saw that scene, and I realized that's Thanos. That's a Thanos fight right there.
Now, isn't Vecna connected to the Red Wizards?
No,
No. Now, will they do that?
What, go to Vecna?
Will they connect Vecna to this whole Red Wizard circle?
I think that would be a poor decision on their part.
No,
I feel
but-
like at this point Vecna's overplayed because of Stranger Things.
yeah, no. They have Red Wizards have plenty of characters in them.
Now,
I mean-
Now, you're a big Greyhawk fan. What do you think about this to TV? They're talking about this
Right?
week?
Oh, Dragonlance from Joe Manganiello.
Yeah. What do you think about Dragon?
Well, again, if it turns out to be Game of Thrones, awesome. If it turns out to be Rings of Power, I'm probably going to jump off a building
Okay.
because I have had them shit in my mouth with Dragonlance properties so many times. I can't deal with it anymore. I can't. Okay, so you may not know this, and I'm going to warn you not to go watch it, but they made a big deal like 20 years ago. They got the rights, and they were going to do an anime-style Dragonlance movie. And somewhere along the way, they thought it would be a good idea to incorporate shitty early 90s CGI for like the dragons, the gods, and the draconians.
Right.
And it looked like you were watching someone's student film. They never finished. It fucking ruined it so bad. And then all of the animation, which was supposed to be good, ended up being kind of like the paint by numbers Hanna-Barbera Saturday morning cartoon like stuff. So the action was terrible, and they had quality. They had Kiefer Sutherland was wrestling, Lucy Lawless was Goldmoon, I think. Like they got big name people to be the voices, and then they just apparently spent all of their money on voice actors, and they gave like 3 kids in a street corner some crayons and had them draw the show. It was
oh my god,
awful. It was such a letdown.
Forward to seeing, or you're scared? Are you scared?
No, well, here's the thing. So here's the thing. I trust the passion of Joe Manganiello, because like he's at the forefront of a lot of things with the game and whatnot. The reason Tom Morello has a cameo in the D&D movie is because he's one of Joe Manganiello's friends who plays in Joe's game. Right. So he's he's one of the famous people. I don't know why they didn't get the Big Show and the rest of those guys to be in that movie. That'd have been fucking great, but they weren't there. Like, is there a better Goliath than 7 feet tall Big Show from WWE? Come on, really? But anyways, missed opportunity. But that's why he's in there. So I trust his passion for the project and his dedication to the. Like, I don't think he would set out and allow them to ruin it the way that they've done with so many other things. But at the end of the day, who's paying for it? Who owns the IP? I mean, Wizards owns it, so they're going to have their grubby fingers in it.
Right.
And who knows? I would hope it's great. And this was excuse me. This was the point of Professional Dungeon Master, and a failing of all the D&D movies is that you literally have IP that are best-selling books that people love. You have a built-in fan base of certain settings and IPs that are huge. Why nobody has made a movie out of them? Because the story's already written. People love the characters. It's in D&D, so you get all of the same kind of nerd crowd you would get, but you have this dedicated core of rabid fans. Right. Why? And here's the thing: how badass would a Ravenloft movie be?
Right. I see what you're saying.
Right. Dragonlance should be great. The Driss series, again, I hate the character, but the books are good. Would be great. There are massively successful properties in Wizards IP, and they don't seem to do it. I don't get what the thing is with this. What the original character nonsense is. I don't get it.
All right. Well, I'm going to stop you there because I took you way off course.
Yeah.
And we're going to get moving back to our schedule here.
Yeah. Yeah, we're totally going to do that.
I saw in the chat someone asked where I got my D20 mug. That was a gift from my forever DM, so I'm sorry. I don't know where he got it, but I love it and I drink everything out of it.
Very nice. All right. So, speaking of new segments and new people, we're going to put the weekly world build in here. Giddes, take it away. What are we doing today?
Yeah, okay, so I thought, based off of what we talked about last week, and based off of the fact that we're talking about this movie, that would be a good idea to kind of quickly rattle off, based off of movies, books, comics, any other media you take in, just to kind of quickly rattle off ideas using those medias. Here we go with my not being able to say the words that I want to say.
You're good.
But anyway, using those forms of media to just kind of quickly come up with ideas of settings that you can use in your campaign. And I'm going to start off with, I would love to do a D&T campaign, whether it's a short form or long form, of something based off of like the movie Bullet Train or Snowpiercer, where you just have a really long train. The entire campaign takes place in the train with possible stops, like very short stops at different stations, but that you can't really go anywhere other than that. So the entire campaign takes place on a train.
I like
What do
it.
you guys
So,
have? Any ideas?
well, it's bouncing around. So we're building off of your creative thinking exercise there, Doc. So
Well, it's funny.
hit us up.
The train idea that you're talking about in Ravenloft, they have the train that goes to Eberron. That's constant. That has some kind of disaster, and I've talked about this before. And you were talking about what medias we use for inspiration, and
Right.
there's this great Doctor Who episode called Robots of Death, where the robots just have numbers and they all look identical. And I sort of want to take this Robots of Death and put it inside the train.
Ooh,
Um,
okay. Now, is this what Doctor is this? Because I'm a Doctor Who fan, but I have not gotten into the
this would be
older
classic.
episodes.
This would be
Okay.
classic. This would be Tom Baker.
Okay.
That would be like
It's on my list of things to do.
16, 15, or around 15, maybe before 15, probably somewhere around there. But it's just really neat the way they all have like the Mr. Roboto masks. And then some of them don't speak. And then one of them that isn't supposed to speak does speak. So I kind of want to kind of slide that into the whole train thing.
Yeah.
And then in the same thing, another inspiration from TV, it was, I'm not sure, it was the new Star Trek on Paramount. They had Mud come and he had that time bomb where things just kept repeating over and over again and they had to stop. So I sort of want to run the train like that, where the train is going to keep exploding, but it keeps repeating over, like events keep repeating it over
And they have
over
to kind of
again.
figure out how to get out of the loop.
Right. And then
Oh,
it
that's
also have
interesting.
the robots dumped in on top of that
Huh.
into the plot. So that was my pulling two TV shows and like sort of conglomerating them into something.
Right. See, this is what I wanted for this segment was I want to be able to show other DMs how you can take just about anything that you consume, mash it together if you need to, and just quickly come up with something that you can throw into your game.
Yeah, that was a triple mash right there. It was
That's
the
awesome.
bullet
What do you got,
train.
Grom?
Well, let
Bullet
me.
train.
I'll give you one that I have already used when I mashed a couple of things up. I mashed up the idea of the endless dungeon, which you can get from a bunch of different sources. There's an awesome an old anime on YouTube that video games are based on called Wizardry, which is the old endless dungeon kind of thing. But also stuff like shows like things like The Running Man. I think Maze Runners is kind of the same idea where people are trapped in this perpetual obstacle course, whatever. But I mixed that with Saw. So you're trapped by some malevolent killer. Super lethal puzzles. It's a funhouse murder dungeon. We did it for a charity event in town. So I built the first, I don't know, several dozen rooms of it. So it starts out like this. Everyone's told to bring 2 characters because one of them's not going to make it. You start out. Everyone's chained across the way. People are paired up and chained across the way from each other. Your gear's in the center. The jigsaw comes on the intercom, the magic mouth, and explains to you that you're not all going to make it. But be entertaining, otherwise you will be no more. And then give the players a little bit of time to figure it out, and then the mechanism starts, and it begins to pull the players back deeper into the cell. And the further but if you go forward, you can fight against it. But when you go forward, it pulls the other person back until eventually you drag them into the spiky, stabby bits of death. So you have to murder another PC to get to your gear, to get yourself free. Otherwise, as the timer expires, the chain gets shorter, so it's harder to move, and you're both going to die. Yep. So after you've murdered half the party to start, they escape the room, end up in a hallway where the the players who had the dead characters have their second PC show up as the 3 survivors from their version of the room, and then it just gets more ridiculous from there as you try to kill people over and over and over again.
I mean, okay, so if you have a party who's willing to go through that dark kind of stuff, I love horror movies. The Saw franchise is like it's popcorn movies for me because it's not like the best horror movie, but it is great to just see these gruesome things
Yeah,
and
Final
people make
Destination,
horrible
Saw, all those. Yep.
choices. Yeah, I love that idea, the horrible choices where someone is going to die and you know it. I like that.
Yep.
Um, so the other idea I had,
She's adding that in. She's adding that in. I see it. She's
I am.
I'll send you I'll send you the file if you want to get a peek into my madness.
Awesome. I love it. As far as like a world setting goes, there's a book. It's in my list of things to read, but the reason I want to read it is it's very captivating to me. It is a tidally locked planet where the moon doesn't move on the planet, where it's night on one side always. It's scorching hot daytime on one side always. And the human population lives in the area that is twilight because that's the only comfortable place to live. And I think that's a fascinating concept for a world because, I mean, what can you do with cities that are constantly always in night, aside from having drow live there? But there's so many things you can do with that, and the other side of the planet that is scorching hot, that if you need to get there, what do you need to do as a party to prepare to be in scorching 150-degree sun 24/7 with no night cycles? I mean, it's fascinating, and I've been wanting to read this book for a while. It's called City in the Middle of the Night. So if anybody's read it, comment, let me know what they do. I'm going to read it eventually, but I love the idea. I want to put that into a campaign at some point.
Very spelljammery.
Right?
Very spelljammery.
Yeah.
Yes.
You guys have any other ideas or anything that comes up? I have one more that I wanted to bring up, which is why I like the idea. I don't know how I would do it. I'd really have to sit down and think about this, but I like the idea of doing... It would be a short form campaign, but something like Inception, where they are in some realm and they are aware that their actions in this realm will impact what happens or how people perceive them in the next realm. And they are aware that they will be realm jumping from, this point to this point to this point to get to an objective, but that there's some kind of an inception thing happening so that I can carry their actions forward into how the next realm perceives them. I kind of really like that idea, so I'm hoping to do something.
Yeah, those are neat. We were talking about something like that. My friend was running. You got to watch it; doesn't get too railroady.
Right, that's the hard part.
Yeah. It's like sometimes their free will is taken away when you're trying to override them with the surreal.
Right. Right. All right. Yeah. That's. I mean, I could rattle off a few more.
No, I got the. I pitched this idea before. The idea from from screen to scene, where you take a movie that doesn't look like a D&D movie, steal the plot and turn it into one. I was thinking, like the Poseidon Adventure or Titanic, where you are on something, in something, sinking castle, falling skyship, whatever you want. But you have to make your way out as the calamity is unfolding, and it gets progressively worse and worse and worse. Right. And you actually keep them on a timer. So if you could save that person, but they're going to slow you down. If they slow you down, will something bad happen? And just or the Towering Inferno, any of the classic disaster movies would work well.
Those are good taps. Yeah.
Yeah, you could easily steal those, but. Other good ones, though? I mean, I'm trying to think of some other...
I like the idea. I don't know. I mean, I wonder sometimes, I've seen people who maybe struggle with these ideas and trying to insert them into their game literally. And so what you said is key. Like, Titanic, but you need to translate it into your game in such a way that it makes sense, so that
Yeah, and what's the there's there's an A plot and a B plot in Titanic. A plot is poor boy woos sad rich girl, and they want to escape together, and then she doesn't let him get on the door because she hates him. Or the B plot is you're on a giant you are in a gigantic hostile environment. Your place of safety becomes a nightmare hellscape as you try to escape it. Otherwise, you're definitely dead. And as far as you know, you're going to get out of it only to find yourself in an even worse situation. But it's that or you die. You could very easily create your dungeon crawl kind of game out of that, and nobody's gonna realize that all you've done is just take Titanic and reskin it as like I said, as a sinking castle or whatnot. Or here's another good one for you too. Have you ever played the game? Is it not House on Haunted Hill, but it's Betrayal at Hill House? Is that what it is?
Yes, but Betrayal at... Oh gosh, now you're gonna make me forget the name. It was Betrayal at House on the Hill.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
It's
I have
a great board game where you
fun.
cooperatively build the map, and then at some point in time, the story, you get to a point in the story where it goes, okay, now this player's the bad guy, and the whole thing shifts, right?
Right.
Well, there's one particular game, I can't remember which one it is, but you get the dungeon, you get the map all built out, working together, and then somebody becomes the monster, but the house is slowly being sucked into a black hole. So rooms start to vanish.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, build your dungeon like that. Where you go through. They get to go through this massive thing on the way in, and then something happens. I guess you can combine them. So well, now you got my brain's working now. Combine that with 13 Ghosts. How the house changes configurations, or Cabin in the Woods. So you go in one way, get to the end of it, and then the configuration starts to shift, but rooms vanish. Shit ends up in the wrong spot. Things that were safe are now dangerous, and really throw them for a loop trying to escape because they're naturally going to want to go the way they came in, but that's not necessarily the right way to go.
Right.
Now you just got me thinking while you guys were talking. My daughter was reading these books. I can't remember the name of them, but it's all the fairy tales, only like twisted up, where they're not exactly correct. So I thought that would even be kind of a neat little way to take a campaign and just take fairy tales and kind of just twist them a little bit. Red Riding Hood. There's a wolf, and in the
Grandma
house.
was always the wolf.
Yeah, there's so many different things you could go that way. So that's just simple. I was just thinking about the way you could twist a fairy tale and then people sort of following the fairy tale, but then it goes a different way on them.
Yeah.
So kind of be interesting.
I'm gonna tell you something. Those grim tales are dark. That shit is nightmare fuel for some kids. It really twists the mind.
Well,
and when you get your brain twisted up like that, the only solution is to take a trip to the doctor's office. So let's do that right now, Doc. What do you got for us this week?
Shoot, he always has a good setup, and I always interrupt him when he's doing his setup.
No, I was waiting for something to get on there when we were kind of at the end of this.
All right, so what I got for you today, and let's see if you guys have heard about these before. They are called witch bottles. Have you ever heard of a witch bottle?
No, but I like the name.
Well, real quick, I'm going to bow out for like a minute and a half because I read your notes from last time and I didn't want to steal your thunder. So I'm going to let you
that's okay.
give it to Giddes, and I'll be right back. That way I don't spoil anything by answering because I did some research myself. I'll be back.
All right, that's right. He did. Before I called in sick, I sent him what my topic was. And I don't think I sent you what the topic was. So
No, I don't remember reading anything about a witch bottle.
All right, so you have no clue.
No, none.
Okay. All right, so a witch bottle is something that came out of the 16th and 17th century, and they are exactly what they sound like. They are a bottle, and it was believed at the time they were used by regular citizens to protect themselves from other witches, that there were witches out there and around them. So people would make these bottles to protect themselves. And there were particular items they had to put in them. You had to put in usually urine.
Wow.
Salt water was acceptable, or wine if you didn't use your urine because you didn't have enough. The one I was reading, they talked about a red string but this was only in one source, but they all repeat needles, pins, and nails.
Well, now, okay, so when you say, hold on, so there's needles, pins, and nails, including urine, or is it like one or the other?
No, it's all together. You're putting all of these things in
Wonderful.
this bottle. So you got
Okay.
a piece of red string. And they said rosemary too. You put some rosemary in
Well,
there.
that makes the urine smell better. So,
Okay. So now, basically, once it was sealed, you would bury it on your property, and it would protect you from anyone like casting a curse on your home or anything like that. If it stayed unbroken and everything. Now,
okay.
as I continued to research this, it got really interesting because in 2019, they started demolishing homes in Watford, England, and they started finding them in all the homes in this town.
Oh, I thought you were going to say they were breaking bottles and people were getting upset.
No, they were finding these witch bottles in people's walls, over 100 of them in this town. So remember, this is mirroring the same time as the Salem witch trials.
Uh-huh.
So this also carries over to the colonies and the UK, British. We'll say the EU at the time.
Okay.
So these things, they're putting them in everywhere. Now it crisscrosses now over to a health benefit.
Okay.
Doctors start prescribing them.
Prescribing witch bottles.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, as ways to heal yourself from certain ailments. And they start doing studies on it, and they start finding out that it's really working.
What?
And
Placebo
yeah,
effect?
I got into this whole research study by PubMed, which I frequently go to when I do research for all this biology stuff that I do. And someone actually wrote a magic ritual, author manuscript 2020, December 16th. What is a witch
Recently.
bottle? Assembling the textual evidence from early modern England. And they go into a full dissertation about how they were used for medicine from the 1670s into the early 1700s. And then abandoned into the late 1700s.
Yeah, they used to also grind up and eat mummies too, by the way, to heal
That I
sicknesses.
did know about. But okay, so I have questions. Okay. Did they say anything about, okay, so they make these bottles, they bury them in their backyard or front yard or what
Yeah.
have you. But were they not concerned about not being protected if they went away from their home? Did they bring one with them, like in their purse? Like, I'm just curious.
It does not talk about anybody carrying them. This was always protecting yourself and your home.
Interesting.
Um,
I would have been concerned. I would have been like, well, if this is supposed to protect me, I should have it on my person
no,
24/7.
no, it doesn't. It does not mention that.
So,
Merwin, what did you see about this?
Well, at first, on the surface, it looks like it's quackery, of course, but most of the best things are. But no, actually, I have an interesting thought and a weird theory, if I can tangent you for a moment. So I've been having conversations with a person who believes some, let's just say, non-mainstream things. And they come back to this idea of there being free energy and just floating around in space that we can't harness, right?
Right.
It got me thinking, though, because I was telling ghost stories to the person. It got me thinking. There's a school of thought that says that we are not people. We're just floating brains in ether, and that we just perceive things in our own floating brain kind of way. Well, what makes the brain work? Electrical impulses sent across neurons. So, what if all of this supernatural stuff, like the witch bottles, all these things that, like, exorcisms, things that work and shouldn't work, are just manipulations of some sort of energy that we can't perceive, that then interacts with us on an energetic level that we are not aware of, and has a beneficial effect.
I mean, I guess I would follow up with, because I'm always the devil's advocate, if it has a beneficial effect, what are it has to have a negative effect as well.
Potential,
You
well,
can't
potentially.
just have, right. So the negative effect is what, like, possessions and things. I guess I'm just, yeah, I want to dig into this.
Well, think. Well, here's the thing. Think about it. Think about mental illness,
Well, I guess
whatever shade you're into.
Right.
What is that? I mean, what are voices? It's
Yeah.
misfiring neurons, which is
Right.
inappropriate electrical activity that your brain interprets as, the dog telling you that the neighbor's got to go.
Yeah.
And what's funny, I rag on the good doctor here for some of his medical practices. And like that crystal shit, I'm like, I didn't know you were a 57-year-old suburban woman, but okay, whatever you're into, buddy, I don't care. But here's the thing, though. But for some people, it has an effect, right? And
Yep.
they go, maybe it's psychosomatic, maybe it's the placebo effect,
Right.
but again, who's to say that
It
that
could, yeah.
isn't your brain impacting the electrical fields around you that causes some sort of feedback into your system that creates a beneficial effect for you. Doesn't work for everybody, but it works for you.
Right.
All right,
Right.
now, Giddes, you wanted to ask what's the negative effect here. So, I guess the thing is, if you use the red string and you have the needles and pins set up right, the ghost that gets pulled into this bottle gets impaled and destroyed. So you're
Oh,
all
that's the
good.
belief. Okay.
You're all good.
But if you
Now,
set it up
if
poorly,
you got to have the rosemary in there,
uh-huh.
because that will carry the dead spirit away. After you destroy it, it carries it away. Now, if you leave some of that out, you're in trouble. Now, the other thing it says is if the bottle is unburied or becomes broken,
Right. I was
there's
curious about that.
that can cause the malicious spirits and the protection to be lifted. So then the malicious spirits are freed. So hopefully you
Okay.
had the rosemary and you got rid of them so they weren't actually trapped in the bottle.
So now I guess okay, boy, I wish I was there in that time, because it sounds like, and maybe if you were in that time, maybe there was more of a definitive, like, here's the recipe that you put in the bottle. But as of right now, I'm hearing could be a red string, could be urine, could be wine.
Well,
So is
right,
it like
right.
some people put in a bottle, bury it, and go, well, that didn't work. Let's do another one. Let's try this combo. Let's try this combo. Like, I'm just curious.
Well, now it's funny. There's another thing I had read about. There's this one. Uh, they talk about Angeline Tubbs. This is during the Revolutionary War times. Okay, so late 1600s, 1700s. She arrives in the U.S. and this is after the Salem witch trials, but she was considered a witch. Okay, and according to an article in the Saratogian, um, that she was brought by a British officer across the Atlantic, but when she arrived, she could not stay in the town, and that she had to live in a nearby mountain range. And she lived there as a beggar and telling fortunes and never came into the town. And
Okay.
they were saying that the town was filled with witch bottles. And that was why she could never come into town. So that's
Wow.
sort of some newspaper documentation
Interesting.
that this woman was a witch and she would not come into the town because the witch bottles were keeping her away.
Hmm.
So I found that out there as well.
Very interesting.
So that's magical Q&A today.
So I'm curious how, I mean, that sounds like something you could put into a game right there, as
That's
far
what I'm
as like
saying.
you just enter a town.
Yeah,
and-
history is always weird enough to just go right into the fantasy game. It's
Right,
perfect.
exactly.
I mean, you just show up in a town. Now, do they have to be completely submerged underground, or is it like, could you see a little bottle sticking out, like a little bottle top?
It says buried, and then the ones we were reading, they were in the walls.
Oh, in
So
the
you
wall.
know you could have
That makes it
somebody.
even better
Yeah.
because then you have this really cool, interesting wall that you're passing by. You can see the party members are just like, "That's interesting. What's that?" Oh, there you can see a little piece of a glass bottle sticking out of like a cement wall. You can see, I don't know, urine,
Well, you
whatever.
could even have detect magic. If someone does detect magic, all of
Yeah.
a sudden, like every house is pinging. It has
And a little
something.
hut off out the outskirts of town with a woman who can't enter into town. I love it. That's great.
I do like that's a great setup for a story arc where the party needs something. They get sent to the crazy witch woman outside of
Yeah.
town, and she's like, "Well, I need to get some things to read, to tell you what you need to know." But the townsfolk have cruelly kept me out, so I need you to go into town and destroy these 5 bottles
Destroy
hidden
the
around
bottles.
town,
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
and
I
then
Even
and
better.
love
then
it.
and then I'll be able to do whatever you need. And then they find out. Well, they find out one of two things: either the town is really full of jackasses who have stolen this woman's power for their own nefarious purposes, or she's the villain. Who knows?
Right. She
And
turns
then
out to be
now
the
she
bad
can show up
guy.
and now she can come into town, and they gotta fight against her. So
And
gives
they
you
gotta have
That's
new
a
witch
great.
couple of ways to
bottles.
do it.
I love it.
Yep.
And then your
Well,
players got to put their urine in the bottle.
we
That
used
that
okay.
just
That's
doing that at the table would be so.
oh god.
Uh,
So that's why I thought that was good. I didn't want to make it a long topic tonight, so that's witch bottles.
Alrighty.
I love
Very
it.
easy to put in the game, I think, and they're neat. And they cross over a little bit, kind of crossing into that voodoo doll, putting the stuff inside.
Yeah.
But of course, a bit more industrialized with using bottles.
Yeah.
So you
And
can
again,
see
just
it's-
as my one of my favorite day one DM tips is you never give up free content for your game. So you could also easily introduce some sort of spectral bad guy who the party can't defeat through normal means, and then they have to go find this solution, and then go find and compile the parts, and then trick the spirit to fall into the trap in order to solve their problem. So you get, every component can be its own session. Figuring it out can be a game, or it can be a session or two, and then actually the setup and as the resolution. So you could get like 2 months of games out of that one item by making your party have to work to get the components, work to get the recipe, and then figure
Yeah.
out how they're going to trap the bad guy.
Yeah.
So never give that up. All right, it is 11:46 on the East Coast. Excuse me. Our main topic tonight was going to be the topic that we kind of abridged last week with you, Doc, being out, your idea of tropes and settings and whatnot. So I will give it to you guys. We're hour and 46 into this thing. We can run the intermission and then come back and close out on Doc's topic. If you guys want to take a little schnoozer there, grab some coffee and some cheesecake. That's what I'm going to do anyways because I'm fat. Awesome. Well,
I think that's a great idea.
all right, we'll do that. Well, let me then. Let's just go in for a little bit of story time before we go to this. I know Giddes will eventually make her debut as
With story time.
as a story.
Oh, thanks, Mike and Jeremy. They said we're awesome.
What's up,
They
guys?
just want to steal our podcast.
They just want us to shut up because we talk too much. That's what they really want us to do. Ooh, I'm trying to think. I was trying to think of a good one for today. Stories I haven't told. Well, we're talking about witches. We're talking about scary things. Oh, I know what I can do. Have I told the story? Have I told any of my haunted hospital stories to you?
I don't
on the
believe
show?
so.
I don't. Okay.
I don't believe I've heard
So-
any haunted
I'm new to all your stories.
All right,
so
so
have at it.
all right. Well, here's the trick, Giddes. Here's what you do: you take something normally boring and that you had happen to you, and you spin it into a yarn with a dramatic break in the middle, and that's what I'm about
Oh
to do.
man, now I can't wait to take over this segment because I got so many stories.
Well, I like to rotate it around. It doesn't always have to be me. So I worked at a hospital for a number of years on overnights, and saw all manner of bizarre, weird, strange, and amazing things. My first night working in the emergency room, I saw somebody come in with what looked like the paramedic holding a flashlight on their shoulder, and I go, "That's weird. What was he holding? What was that device? Was it really a flashlight?" "No, that's the handle of a sword somebody rammed through his back." I'm like, "No shit!" Yeah, that's a crazy story too. I'll save that for a different time. That's not my tale this evening. But inevitably, the talk gets around on nights about the hospital being haunted. So it was University Hospital in Syracuse. You can look some of these facts up. And there's a building. There's two very creepy things that I'm going to mention first. But there's the original building. I can't remember what it was called now, but it was a psychiatric hospital during the Civil War. So this little building that they had converted into part of the medical school, and they had classrooms there and labs there and everything. But it was originally a psych hospital for people that had PTSD and shell shock from the horrors of the Civil War. And we'd heard stories about it being haunted. There were a couple of outbuildings on the campus, stories about them being haunted. There was Wise Cotton Hall, which was the original medical college, where things happened. So, Wise Cotton Hall had an extension built onto the 7-story tall tower, and I was talking to one of my coworkers about various experiences, weird things in the hospital. Everybody had ghost stories to tell, and he tells me, he goes, do you know what's in the basement of Wise Cotton Hall? I go, no, I don't know what's down there. Oh, well, it's storage for the college, and everything they've collected and don't use gets put down there, including all of the anatomy stuff that they used to use. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, well, let me show you. And he takes me, we go down this horror movie hallway, 4 South. This just long, empty, the morgue is on this floor in a separate wing.
I wish I was there.
Well, we go down there, the lights flicker. It's like 3:30 we go down at 3 in the morning because that's the witching hour, 3:33.
Oh yeah.
For those of you who are Exorcist fans. When we go down there, we get in this elevator, it closes, and it just, goes down. We make the crossing over into the building, and we get in the elevator. He goes, all right. He goes, I'm going to show you. And we go down, get to the bottom, ding, doors open up, and straight out, I might get goosebumps telling the story, straight out of a horror film is this long, dark hallway that goes somewhere in the depths of the earth, just straight ahead. No lights are on. They're all motion sensors. So until you get off the elevator, all you can see is this little area illuminated in red from the exit sign on the elevator.
Oh,
And
that feels like a big nope.
And to the left and the right are aisles like a library. And I go, oh, crazy. They store books down here? He goes, no. He goes, you see those boxes over there? Yeah. He goes, can you read what that one says? I'm like, well, let me pull my flashlight out. Pull the light on, put it over there. And the box says L1, L2, L3, L4. Do you know what those are?
I'm assuming like level 1, level 2. I don't know.
No. Lumbar 1, lumbar 2,
okay.
lumbar
Okay.
3.
Yes.
They're body parts. They're human bones.
Spinal cords.
That they had collected over the decades the hospital was open. And eventually they just take them out of service and they get put in these boxes, and they replace them with plastic anatomy dolls and whatnot now. But people donated their bodies. Their bodies are down here. I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. He goes, yeah, you want to walk down there? I go, nope, I have no desire to go out of this elevator down that dark end. Nope, not going to happen. He goes, all right, well, let me take you somewhere else. So we go up to the 2nd floor, get out, we walk down, and there was always this section that I walked through in Wise Cotton Hall where you would hear the pipes bang because they had the old radiators from like the 30s. And he goes, you ever notice when you walk by this office that the pipes bang a lot? I'm like, yeah, but I mean, the bathroom's on the other side of the thing. I just figured it would happen. He goes, do you know what this office used to be? I'm like, what? He goes, it used to be the morgue. I'm like, no way. He goes, yeah. He goes, let's go in there and see what happens. So we open the door, and it's just a boring looking office. He goes, why? He goes, let's see what happens. Pull my phone out. He goes, record this. He goes, like ghost hunters. And he's like, okay, they were recording. If there's anything here that wants to communicate and doesn't want us here, let us know. Bang, 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 bang. I'm like, I'm done. I'm out. No, I'm done. I walked right out. Right. I'm like, I'm not doing this. I can't handle it. And he goes, dude. He goes, I'm telling you right now. He goes, we do it all the time. It happens every single time. It's too reliable to be random. He goes, obviously it's a hospital. It used to be a morgue. Psych ward was over there. There's body parts right below us. Hundreds of dead bodies. Clearly it's haunted, right? Yeah, you're right. All right, cool. He goes, all right, well, have fun. He goes, you're over here by yourself all night long. Great, thanks, I appreciate it. So I go upstairs. I go upstairs on the 7th floor, and it's, a little computer lab and classrooms and everything. I grab a drink. The cafeteria's up there. Very, normal, kind of lit up and boring stuff. I sit there. I relax a little bit. I'm like, all right, well, I gotta check every floor and check every door. And below me are all these floors where they have anatomy labs. And they bring the bones up. Like, so they bring the bones up. They bring cadavers up there. They even had a program where they were teaching military doctors to deal with trauma. So they would have gunshot victims and bodies that were donated, right? All in these things. And they bring them over on these big metal rolling trays that kind of looks like you go to Subway and they open up the little metal thing and all the stuff's in there. It kind of looks like one of those on wheels, right? But they're very heavy metal trays, and they make a distinctive sound when they roll across the floor. And I had done morgue runs before, and I had done escorts, so I know what they sound like. So I get down to the 9th floor. I'm like, all right, going down to the 8th floor, radio in. I get on the elevator because I'm lazy. Boop, wait for it. I get on the elevator. I go down. There's only 2 elevators, right? I'm in one of them. I don't hear the other one. I get to the bottom floor. I get to 8, so I get to the next floor down 8. And I start walking down. I'm checking door handles. And I get to the far end of the hallway. And as I'm walking back, I hear the unmistakable sound of one of those carts, the wheels, just on the floor above me, where I just left.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay. I don't think anybody's over here. That's pretty strange. I go back up. Did somebody come up here? Maybe the engineer, maybe they're working on something. They have a little rolly cart of tools, right? I get to that floor. I hear on the floor below me. I'm like, all right, maybe I missed him. I go down to so I run down the stairs to the 8th floor. Nothing. I hear on the floor below me. I'm like, no fucking way. No way. I run down to the 7th floor. I hear the and then I hear a sound. But I'll tell you what that was when we get back from our break.
Oh man, I want to live there.
Oh, that's disturbing. Hey everybody. Anyways, I think the reel runs for about 13 minutes. It's 11:56. We'll be back at, let's just say, 12:10 a.m. for us East Coast folk. Thank you for listening. We are happy to have you with us. Please chill out through the break. We'll be back to talk about tropes, scenes, and settings.
Yep, we'll see you in a bit.
And we'll see you guys in a bit.
Hello! Welcome to Dark Mysteries. I'm your host, Sean Carroll, and tonight I'm going to be telling you a mystery. A mystery in which you will be attempting to solve in the chat below using yes or no questions, and I will respond honestly until the mystery is solved. Tonight's mystery is titled A Breathing Mountain. A party was gathered, a dwarven cleric, an elven mage, and a human barbarian. they requested to meet at the dwarven town of Mitesfoot to adventure into a fabled mountain for a top-secret material known as Death's Bone. Their journey was delayed by a bandit attack, but they proved victorious. As they were now not on schedule and now late, upon their arrival, Mitesfoot was gone, destroyed, and almost completely flattened. As they were investigating, they realized there were no signs of life. The dwarf, who was proficient in his perception, then casted his gaze to the fabled mountain, noticing a large portion of it missing. He then began to have a heart attack, dying as a result. The mystery? What destroyed the city? And what caused the dwarf to die? Remember to drop your answers in the chat below, and if you enjoyed our dark mysteries, please leave us a like and follow. Do you have what it takes to solve the dark mystery?
Hey there, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. What can we do for you?
Hey, I'm Vic, Vic Mascatoni, and my crew and I, we got us a heist up there at old Aldor's place in a couple of nights. Now,
All right.
we're trying to slay the dragon on this one, if you know what I mean. So what I need is a few high-quality lockpicks, you know. None of that cheap crap that you sell the commoners. So what's a rogue got to do to get a good lockpick? What do you got for me?
Well, we don't sell parts, but if you're needing help getting into something, we can send a technician out.
Ooh, that's even better. So I tell you what, you send them up to Aldor's, right? You bring the lockpicks, right? We'll cut you guys in on the heist. Do it 50-50.
All right. Is this heist in a car, a house? What are we
It's up at old
out of?
Aldor's place. He's sitting on a mountain of gold up there, and we just need to get in there and fill up our bags with as much of that gold as we can. You know what I mean? But you bring your lockpicks, you show up, we'll split it 60-40.
I'm not sure our insurance would cover us sending our technicians.
I tell you what, I'll slide you $2,500 up front. Nobody's got to know nothing. You come with the picks.
Well, I'm not the technician. I'm just the dispatcher.
Well, get me to the technician. He might want to make $2,500.
Okay. What's the address?
And that's going to be up at Way.
Okay. In which city?
What are we calling here? We're calling Portland, right? Yeah, it's going to be in Portland.
You said way?
That's correct. It's exactly how it sounds, ma'am. Yeah.
All right. Is there a business nearby? I'm not able to pull that address up.
Well, you wouldn't be able to pull it up because it's old Aldor's place. And he keeps it under tight lock and key. Why we need the picks.
I don't think we'd be able to assist.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll go on down there to the next locksmith and see if they want to make some money. You have a good night, huh?
You too. Hello, this is Spring Hill Suites in Hillsborough. Brenda speaking.
Hello, this front desk?
Mm-hmm.
I am Grigory Levushka. I am 87 years old, and I'm here to this country to visit my great nephew. So I stay at your hotel, yes?
Are you asking if we have availability?
I am not pleased with stay at hotel. Number one.
Oh, you're not, please.
Why you no clean room? It stink like orc piss in here. Like camp of filth.
I am so sorry. What room are you currently in?
Number two. Next door neighbor bang on walls. Like how you say to owlbears. They fighting. You know, owlbear.
You're in room 2?
And number 3, the toilet growls like beast, is giving me stink eye. It's make very uncomfortable for me, you know? Basically, bushka.
Would you mind continuing this conversation on your room phone?
So you help me? No.
With the housekeeping?
Da? The toilet has teeth. It have teeth. Why have teeth? Is normal?
Yeah.
Is normal.
I'm sorry, sir. I'm not entirely sure what's going on. If you wouldn't mind coming to the front desk, I wouldn't mind assisting you.
I'd be there as quickly as can. But if
Sounds good.
you follow the sound of what sound like two owlbear making love on second floor, is no good.
Alright. See you soon.
Thank.
I keep my rules to myself. Fudge a couple numbers so the body don't run out of health. Always the perfect if you can't watch him bleed. It's a lot of power to wield. Ooh, gotta balance these conflicts. How other players gonna handle taking licks now? Not to end their fun till the game is done. Ooh, it's a pleasure to inflict out. Get up big and watch the players start to trip out. When they feel they've won, hit them with a stun.
Hello?
Hey, I can't come into work today.
Is everything okay?
I can't see.
You can't see. Something wrong with your vision?
No, I can't see myself working today. Bye.
It's that time, folks. We're back. How you guys doing?
I am relieved.
What? You have been relieved. And Doc, how are you doing? Of course, we can't hear you because not because I muted you. Did you mute yourself?
That's all me.
All right, wonderful.
That's all me. I rolled a
Welcome.
1.
Welcome back, those of you that hung out with us through the break. Thank you very much. I do enjoy the tunes we got in there. I like the little heavy metal piece for the Wind Rip Cavern thing. I kind of like that. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for hanging out with us. Let's get back in here and finish my little story. So I hear this sound. The elevator dings. I'm like, okay. Now, understand that these are long, straight hallways with a little... kind of where the intersection of a T would be, just a little cutout where the elevators are. So I'm down the hallway, I hear it ding, and I hear the doors open. There is zero chance I'm going anywhere near that elevator. So I just kind of hang out there, just waiting. And then I hear the sound again below me. I'm like, okay, there is something going on. So I run
The sound
down.
is the that sound?
Yeah. The body cart rolling again. So I go down to the 6th floor. Not there. I hear it above me again. I go, no, I'm done with this place. So I run down like 6 flights of steps, back into the creepy murder hallway, up the scary ass elevator, all the way back to the hospital. I go in, and the duty engineer, there's a person who runs the whole hospital. There's 3 people, and this is one of them. At night, I go in there, I said, okay, I go, do you have somebody over there in that hall? They're like, no. I go, I'm the only engineer working tonight. You don't have anybody over in Wise-Cotton Hall? Nope. Okay. Okay. So I go, I'm like, you know what? To hell with this. I go into our control room. I said, look, can you bring up the cameras from like 20 minutes ago? Brings everything up, and we're watching all the floors. And you see me looking around like a terrified person. You see nothing on any floor. No cart, no people. Check the log. Nobody has swiped into this building since me and the other guy came over. Like an hour before. But I heard the body cart. Above me, below me. And so here's the thing. I wasn't using the elevator. Something pushed that button.
Somebody was using
Something rode that elevator down. But there was nobody on camera and nobody in the building. And that was...
I love it. I'm such a fan of just horror creep. Now, to be fair, I am very easily scared.
Okay.
But that doesn't stop me from loving it. But so I would be in your situation probably doing exactly what you did, and then just afterwards would be completely fascinated by it.
Yeah, it was one of many of these kind of stories. I had them, other people had them, weird experiences. You haven't heard these before. I also have some personal horror stories, terrifying things that have happened over the years. So I will share those with you at a later date if you're a fan.
Sure, yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
But that's how we do the story time.
All right, now I know.
Now you know. So now you can begin working on your own.
Yeah, I have a repertoire I'm sure I'll have to build up.
Oh, nice. I love it. All right. Well, let's get into our main topic tonight. Thanks, everybody, for listening. So, Doc, you had sent the message and unfortunately missed the show. So I did a little history lesson. Went through the various eras and the settings that were available. But you wanted to talk about tropes in the settings? Is that what, if I remember correctly? Why don't you set us up? What was the topic? What did you want to talk about? And you take us away.
Well, I guess the question I had was this week in gaming. We
totally skipped right over that.
Yeah.
Shit.
Before we say the shit I forgot, because that was sort of my lead-in, was one of my players asked the question. So I'm going to back us up.
Okay.
To our week in games. Do you want to go first?
I'll make mine really short. So the party found themselves, after diving down this trap on purpose, in a room with no visible way to escape. They battled against the resurrected form of a Death Knight, but one whose protections from the burial ceremony were fighting against the necromantic magic. So he was slowly burning from the inside out. But there were 2 points where this fight would have very quickly become a TPK. And we narrowly avoided both of them. The first one was a mistake on my part. I forgot that the Warforged, or Soulbound, as I call him in my homebrew, had his seal cracked, so his soul was at risk of evaporating out of the shell, and that makes him susceptible to things that affect the undead, which he normally wasn't. So I did 1d8 less smite damage than I should have, and that allowed him to stay conscious when he should have been dropped. So that, and I didn't catch that until like the end of the next round. So it would have been too much to unwind to fix that.
Right.
And then I dropped one of the 2 clerics in the party. The Artificer doesn't have cure. The Thief doesn't have cure. There's no potions. I hate them. So all that's left is the one dwarf cleric, Norgrad. As he has earned the title in the game, he is the Unquenchable Forge. As I've tried to drown him but failed like 7 times.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So he picked up a name, the Unquenchable. But I stand over him and I just unload like a level 4 smite and a 2-handed attack. I hit him with both, and he ends up at like 7 hit points. So if I had rolled a couple of 1s on the smite and whatnot. So if I had rolled a little bit more damage, I would have had both clerics down with no way for anyone to revive them, while still having to fight the Death Knight. So it would likely have gotten pretty bad, and could have been a party wipe. There was another moment too where I dropped the rogue, and I'm like, well, the Death Knight can't reach anybody else, so I'm not going to have him walk away from your body 2 steps and do nothing. So he's just going to stab you with a second attack, so it failed 2 death saving throws. Just left him on 1.
Is this the same game we had talked about last week, where you had like some kind of a trap where somebody had fell down and the party left him and there was somebody else? So what happened? Did that guy die?
No. So he fell in the trap, and the trap is designed to provide fresh what do they call them? Guinea pigs for experiments.
Uh-huh.
So it wasn't designed to kill them. It was designed to put them where they could be experimented on.
Okay.
And this happened to the experimentation was how was this version of the resurrection of this knight going to go? So they were they were there to see what happened. So I almost murdered them all. Yeah. And then in classic player fuckery fashion, the bad guy goes on and has a little magic mouth set up, a severed head talking oracle kind of thing. So the skull rises up, wreathed in purple flames, and it's like tries to convince them to join his cause. They refuse, and then lets them know that in dying they will serve his purpose, and then in death they will serve him further, kind of thing. So they kill the Death Knight. Nobody dies. They're all like on 2 or 3 hit points, and the skull rises up again, and it goes very well. I shall enjoy watching you starve slowly to death. To which the shitty cleric's like, well, we got to create food and water. We're good forever. We're never going to die. I'm like, fuck, I hate this game. So my threat rings immediately hollow. But there was an interesting development. As I said before, the Soulbound has been trying to uncover his backstory, and the apprentice to the head of the cult of vengeance that's in this death cult in the city happens to be from where he's from, and claims anyways to know what he is and who created him and what his purpose is. So everyone lays down for rest. At being a Soulbound, he can stay active for 6 hours, just sit there. So he's the watcher while they're all sleeping. I'm like, all right, everybody make perception checks, disadvantage. Only one character succeeds. So I go, Shaper, you see the light and hear the sound of ice and wind as this energy forms a doorway behind you. What do you want to do? Mm. He's like, I'm going to go through it. Okay, so he steps through, and the other party member go, you wake up just in time to see this portal form, Shaper walk through, and it close behind him. and that's where we ended the game.
Ugh. Always leaving on a cliffhanger.
Yeah, and no one. So only one party member is aware that he left. Nobody knows where he went to or why. Character-wise, I explained to him what was going on when he got there, so the players know he is talking to this apprentice in her little laboratory. But I have a little surprise for them when the game starts next time, and I won't spoil it now. I'll tell you guys next week.
Cool.
All right.
What about you, Doc?
Well, yours ties into the topic, right?
Yeah, so you
So
go.
Oh,
Giddes-
so maybe I need to go next.
Yeah, you go next.
Well, okay, so my game's monthly, and the other game that I play in is monthly. So in the last week, I don't have anything to report on in my game or in the other game. However, I did mention last week that, I was doing the podcast from a different location. I was kind of
Yes.
stuck due to bad weather. My flight was delayed. So this is my normal location, which you will continue to see until I have my backdrop. And I wanted to showcase some of the minis and terrain that I've built, because we kind of discussed that last week, right?
Yeah.
I love
Yep.
to build this stuff. I like to make this stuff from scratch. I do have a 3D printer, but again, gray pile of shame. I hate painting. So I would rather make it if I can, cheaply, easily. So I have a few pieces I want to show off. This, let me find my camera, is my corpse flower. Where's the camera? Here we go.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
I mean, definitely, probably not to scale, but I didn't care because it was a cool big
It's
monster.
awesome.
Let me see if I can
that's
get in
great.
there. So basically,
As long as the base is the right size, right?
yeah. So basically, got one of these, grass balls from, craft store, some viney stuff to build in there. I glued some leafy pieces to kind of make a nice little claw shape. And then for the flowers, I bought little like bridal flowers. Can I find my camera? I am just not spatially aware.
Mine's
But
got a
anyway.
weird aspect to it too. That's why I keep moving my fingers around. I'm like, why am I not in front of my lens?
Right. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. So got these little flowers, and then I put these pins that I got, these white pins in the middle, and just kind of used a marker to kind of put some skull flavor on it. Oh, if I can find it. I'm bad at this.
No, I see
Anyway.
the skulls.
Yeah. So to kind of make a corpse flower that they fought. This was actually earlier on in my campaign. I also did 3D print this. This is a kraken head. Where's my camera? Here we go. Okay, but along with that, I wanted to include some tentacles that could kind of be all over the map. So there's the head, and they maybe have to deal with the head, but they also have tentacles. So went to the dollar store. I don't know if you can see that very well.
And then they can come out like in different areas in the
Different
water.
areas of the map. But I got basically
Yeah.
plastic snakes from a dollar store. Used a what do you call it? Like a heat,
Yeah.
Glue gun or whatever.
heat gun. That's what I'm thinking of.
Heat gun to
Gun
melt
to
them.
kind of bend the shapes the way that I wanted it to. Painted them. I'm so bad at this. I'll get better at this, guys. But anyway, and so essentially the effect when I had them all on the map, if I can show this, is to kind of have the kraken head with all the tentacles
Coming
all
out.
over
No,
the
that
place
looks
on the map.
great. That looks
That's really
great.
good.
Right? So that was a lot of fun for my players. As far as terrain, I'm particularly proud of this, not because it's beautiful, but because it was really cheap and easy. So there's a locale in my world that's very kind of deserty. It's mostly run by Yonti snake folks who are very tribal in their society, and they have kind of a maze that they send their warriors through to test their skills, to catch monsters, to prove themselves. It's a rite of passage. And so I created this. I created little modular pieces out of cardboard and foam, and glued some grassy bits on there and flowers and
neat.
stuff. But what I love about it is I could basically form it into any shape at any time, so that they didn't know where they were going. Other people didn't know where they were going. I could put them you know,
Like,
however
just
I
keep
wanted.
continuing whichever way down the path you need them to
Right.
go.
Yeah, and just kind of create a path for them, a maze. And then most recently, now this isn't probably my best work, but it was the most recent game was they went into a volcano. They were looking for an abandoned forge that was within a volcano. So I did create these kind of modular volcano tiles. But what I loved about
Ooh,
this
very
is,
nice.
oh, wrong side, cork. If you buy these little cork, what are the the things that you put on tables to protect your tables from wet glasses? Why can't
Yep.
I think of the name?
Coasters.
Coasters, thank you. Little corkboard coasters that you just kind of rip up, and they create the perfect texture and shape, and just glued them on, paint them black, and little modular tiles so you can kind of fit them together and
Very
have little
nice.
walking paths on the lava. So that's that. Oh, I did have one other thing I wanted to share. My favorite dice bag, which I created, dragon scale dice bag, looked like dragon eggs, because I am a dice goblin,
Oh, very nice.
goblin dice hoarder.
I want to see this works. I played. We got my buddy's is way better at the terrain than I am. Buildings and whatnot. I do the environmental, so he does buildings. I'm trying to see if this will translate up there. So that's
Okay.
that's the mini eye view of one of the alleyways we were fighting in.
I love
yeah,
when people take pics like that. Like
Yeah.
you can see if you're the person in the terrain.
Yep. Hang on, let me.
There you go.
A little bit rough.
I love it.
I want to get the one that's got. There's a good one at the top. Oh, it's one of the trees I 3D printed and painted in the center of it. But let me find
Yeah.
the tower just to give you the full view. This is the overview of the board. It's
Okay.
not
Go back a
very
little bit.
well.
Go back a
Yeah,
little
there
bit.
we go.
Oh yeah, I can see it there.
But
Okay.
zoom in on the tower. Like
Very
it's like a
cool.
3-story busted out tower over the board. All right. Anyways, I just felt jealous. Next time I'm gonna have miniatures over here next time that I can
That's
share.
right. You gotta
'cause
be
I'm jealous.
ready to challenge her. You can't be showing us no blurry cell phone pictures.
I know. Well,
You already keep fading out of your hexagon. Come on.
that's I know. Well, yeah, I gotta stay in one
the
spot
center,
now. So
stay in the center.
I've noticed since we contain Docs within the hexagon, he's been right near his mic the whole time.
Keeps me on my mic.
Yeah.
Keeps
I like
me
it.
on my mic. It sure does.
All right. Well, give us your game story and our topic for the end of
So
the
it was
show.
interesting. It was very interesting. We went 2 weeks, so you guys didn't get to hear my updates. We had the player who had the halfling ranger who had died, and the bard was out, right? Missed the game.
Yeah.
And the sisters were together in the tomb, using the Eye of Nothic to try to get around and, maneuver around in the tomb and kind of look for things. And then just before we started playing last week, that player's mom passed.
Aw.
Oh,
And
wow.
so he couldn't join us. And he was like, no, you guys go ahead and play. You guys, and it was like, whoa, this is really weird. So we went ahead and played again. And sure enough, the sisters were busy using the Eye of Nothic, peeking into tombs. They got the Sun Sword, which they actually need, Castle Ravenloft. That's like a big object to find. They kind of got their bearings, and then they said, we're going to stop tonight. Freddie didn't make it. We're gonna wait for him for next week. So then we had said, what do you want to play? What setting or what trope do you want to play next week? And then all of us who played D&D started spitting things out. Oh man, I'd like to play Ravenloft. What Dark Sun? Blah 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 blah. Oh, what about Forgotten Realm? Blah. And everyone started shooting things out. And the one player, who plays the sisters, was like, you guys sound like the Peanut adults to me. What are you talking about?
Peanut adults?
Yeah.
Okay.
I hate myself all the time. Okay. So we just
No,
sound.
I knew what that was. I just didn't. Okay, sorry.
It
Go ahead.
didn't make sense to her what we were talking about. So that's why I was like, well, it's something we need to talk about on the podcast. I mean, as a veteran D&D player, you just kind of take a lot of those things for granted. And you don't think about where they come from, and you start talking about them to other people before you even realize, what's going on. Now that same night, we're all talking because, a friend of ours lost their mom. So we stopped playing. We were all just kind of like talking. And then the one guy, Frank, says, hey, I bought Icewind Dale. And we were talking about that in the beginning of the movie, right? It's in the beginning of the movie. And he said, well, I bought the book and I want a DM. Well, now it's come full circle because now Freddie and I, who've always wanted to play together, be players together, have had to DM for each other. So now we've just had someone offer us to
You
DM.
get to be a player.
So it's like, yeah, we get to be all players together now. So we're like, we're all
fun
at it. So that sort of affects the whole what happens next in Ravenloft. Come to think of it, because now Freddie comes back to the table the next Thursday. This is just last Thursday that's passed. They want to be done now. They got the Sun Sword. They want to find Strahd. They want to find the werewolf that's supposed to go with them, which they do. They locate him. I hold Hellbore, the wizard's feet to the fire with the Eye of Nothic, and say, look, if you keep using this thing, you're going to be completely what's the word?
Corrupted, possessed, taken over?
Yeah,
Lost?
well, no, like in the movie, he's trying to attune to the helmet. I said, if you keep using this eye, you're going to be completely attuned to it, and you're going to have to start making madness saves. She's starting to have the blurry vision. Like the eye's trying to take her over now. So because they were definitely using it way too. What's the word I want to use?
Much.
Yeah, it's way too much. And so I played that card first, and then they decided they were just going to head after Strahd. They found the werewolf in the dungeon. They knew he was in the dungeon. They went and got him. They accidentally teleported themselves back to the abbot's location, but they were smart enough to have set up a teleport sigil outside of Castle Ravenloft, so they were able to get themselves back rather quickly. Got themselves back in there, but they're headed to the study because that's where the fortune says they're going to find him, and they want to have that final battle. They don't seem too concerned about the riches and everything else in the tomb. So that led us to, what are we playing next? We did, I don't know if Amber knows this, we also started a game, Mask of the Red Death, which is set in the 1890s. Where
I've heard of it, yeah.
I play an Italian immigrant organ grinder with his little monkey.
Right. I love that character concept.
So that we have on the back burner while we're finishing Ravenloft. We're going to switch back to Red Death. But then, of course, we're going to now switch to this Icewind Dale, which I'm all pumped about. And I can't decide whether I'm going to be a barbarian or a druid. But I really feel like druids have turned into changelings, not...
They don't have to be, though. This is something I've been wanting to have a conversation with you about, but I almost want to also hold
that's
it.
a whole nother topic.
Right? I want to hold it because I have druid conversation topics.
And I think that could be a whole... Maybe that's next week. We have the druid topic. But getting into... and that led us into settings and tropes. We decided we'd go to Icewind Dale anyway as sort of an adventure setting. Now, you guys talked about the different eras last week.
Yeah, I try to run through the phases, the eras of the game, and the settings that were there,
All right, so
and the style of games.
Talked about Blackmoor, Forgotten Realms, and Greyhawk.
Well, Blackmoor, which became Greyhawk.
Okay. Well, did you know that that's really they're authored differently too?
What?
Okay, so Greyhawk is really considered authored by Gygax.
Okay.
And Blackmoor.
That's Arneson's campaign.
Hey, by the way, I wanted to just chime
Go
in.
ahead.
You know that documentary you mentioned? I
Yes.
did watch the Blackmoor documentary.
Secrets of Blackmoor? Okay.
Yeah.
Good. It's good, right? And you're like...
Very interesting. I just love documentaries, but that was an interesting take. I hadn't heard any of that stuff.
Well, it started as David Wesley's concept, and it was in the white box. There was a book called Blackmoor, but it ended up only being an adventure. Like he was supposed
Not a campaign.
He was supposed to be releasing more and more things about it, but that did not come out. And then it didn't actually come out. And this is Blackmoor campaign setting came out by Judges Guild. Okay.
Okay.
So it's interesting because originally it was used as the test setting that they were playing with. Then Gygax broke off and wrote Greyhawk as a separate setting. And now you know where Forgotten Realms fits into this.
Well, yeah. So, let me go back a step because I see this in the chat and I wanted to bring it up. So, Gygax wrote the rules for Chainmail, which is a war game supplement.
Correct.
People were using those, Gygax and others were using those in kind of a proto RPG sense, and that's where Arneson had written Blackmoor for.
Correct.
And then they got linked up, and that was the initial kind of setting type thing, and then that turned into...
Gygax very quickly
stole it?
No, said, I have this thing called Greyhawk. I'm going to have this thing called Greyhawk. You have this Blackmoor, I have this Greyhawk.
I thought it grew out of that.
No. According to this, it is authored by Gygax.
Okay.
O-Earth is authored by Gygax, but it turns into an extension of Forgotten Realms. Now, Forgotten Realms, right, is written by Ed Greenwood.
Yeah. Yeah. He started writing it when he was like 7.
Right.
You've seen some of his original. Yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah. He still has. I'm gonna get nerdy. I'm gonna get nerdy for a second, really quick.
Go ahead. Please do.
So he started when he was like 7. Been building the same world ever since. Still has original documents from when he was a kid. That he has and that he keeps
in a vault.
Yeah. Well, he has this crazy library.
Some of his writing as a child predates any science fiction writers writing about multiple universes. So when you hear Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness,
right?
He was writing about multiverses when he was 8 in 1967.
That's genius level. That is
wild.
So
so that's and then he was writing about how different things were affected by different and then anyway that turned into Neverwinter, Baldur's Gate, Sword Coast.
Yeah, but that setting was picked up for 2nd edition AD&D.
Right, and then
that kind of became the default. That's when the campaign setting came out. The old gray box, and then a bunch of other stuff along with it.
And then we were talking about the movie, right? Because then the movie took that as its major, the Red Wizards, and all that. And Ed is really making a huge surge, I feel like, on YouTube. If you watch his numbers and his followers, he's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Well, he has always had a presence. Kind of poking around. So he had a website, and then I tried to get involved in it a while back and write some stuff, but where he was kind of fostering people to write stuff. But I actually met him in '93.
Greenwood?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was at Gen Con, and it's not in a way that you would expect. So. You would think it'd be like, signing something or whatever, or book reading. Nope. I was walking through the convention floor, and I look over, and in this little little kind of pop-up fantasy tent, there's just a horde of kids sitting there on a bunch of pillows, and there's this giant wizard-looking dude telling the kids a story, and he's got like a little stuffed wolf, and he's whatever tale he's spinning, right, and they're all just giddy about it, and I look and I'm like, son of a bitch, that's Ed Greenwood. And he's like telling a story to these kids, just sitting on the floor, completely like non-pretentious. So I listen to him tell the story, and then I'm like, hey, I love your stuff. Hey, how you doing? I did quick. I don't want to get obsessive about it, but like I said hi and met him right when he finished that, and I'm like, no shit. So yeah, I actually met him way back when, and he looked exactly the same, just younger.
So that falls into the category of celebrities that you actually did meet.
Well, yeah, I mean they're nerd authors. Are they really celebrities?
Well, yeah, it was. I can't remember what you called it last week, but there was people you almost.
Oh yeah, no, that's my I miss all the famous people. I almost meet them.
Yeah.
But no, met him. I met Margaret Weiss, Tracy Hickman. They actually, let me rephrase that. I yelled at them at Gen Con while they signed my book because I thought they had released the first chapter of of Dragons of Summer Flame, the sequel to the original trilogy, and the chapter they released involved killing Tasselhoff Barefoot, and I'm like, what is wrong with you people? I had to have it out at them, and they're laughing at me, and they're like you didn't go to the breakfast this morning? I'm like, no, it was fucking sold out. They go, really? There were tickets? Like, you could have gotten, there was plenty of space. I'm like, son of a bitch, I would have gone. He goes, yeah, we started chapter 2. I think you'll be happy with what happens. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, we're not going to tell you.
Oh,
And they signed my book, and so.
Now you gotta read it.
Yeah. And then
Yeah,
I
so
met
going back
Larry
to,
Elmore as well. But anyways, go on.
Yeah,
All right, so then we'll kind of like speed it. We'll kind of trek up to, I guess, the 90s. You had Spelljammer. You're a mix of high magic with the space, Dark Sun. Your post-apocalyptic setting. Did you guys talk about these?
There's a few that I missed. So I missed Gamma World, which was a classic TSR one.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, then you can talk about Gamma Word and Boot Hill trying to do the crossover where you could time travel from the fantasy world to the Western world to the radiation world. But that never really launched. But there are copies of the Dungeon Master's Guide that has the crossover rules for 1E to cross those games.
Yeah.
Really?
That was printed that way.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, Spelljammer and that other stuff is, 20 years after that almost.
Wasn't that far apart? Yeah, Spelljammer was second edition.
Yeah,
Yep.
really, you had the Dragonlance comes out at the end of the 80s, right? And that was the big setting, was all those Dragonlance modules after the original modules.
Well, they were So the original modules were all written to be tournament kind of modules.
Right.
And
right.
this I did tell this. This was in the thing from last week. Yeah. The original modules were like tournament modules and all the classics, keeping the Borderlands and all that stuff, kind of written for the basic game. And then when they put when they got into first edition, they're like, well, we want to put out more content. We want to support it though with books. So Tracy Hickman, who's a dude, by the way, in case anyone didn't know, I didn't know that for years, but he created the setting. Margaret Weiss and him were hired to to write the adventures and turn them into novels. Somebody else wrote the adventures and whatnot.
And that was right at the turn too. Like Ravenloft, the first Ravenloft original had just been written.
Yeah.
And someone had finally taken a monster, and put it in a real environment. So that's where I think, obviously they decided they were going to do Ravenloft as a setting. They did Planescape, Darkscun, and Spelljammers. Now, do you know are you familiar with those, Amber, or yes, no?
I've only just heard about them because I don't do modules.
Okay.
And I don't read them unless I'm skimming for inspiration.
So then when we were talking about, settings, tropes, and genres, and I know Amber Benson, do you mean about characters? Do you mean about worlds? So I just sort of, again, going back to my player, trying to explain to her, what we were going to play. Like Icewind Dale. Well, what is the setting? Well, it's like a winter setting. It's high fantasy, and these are all like terms we use. So I just.
So are you doing Rime of the Frost Maiden?
Yes.
Okay, that's okay.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Icewind Dale was the title of the video game. So,
right.
That's the area of the world.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm getting my settings, tropes, and terms all confabulated here. So
Deconfabulated.
Confabulated. So what I just started doing was just sort of like a list, so I could just sort of like talk to my player about like these different things. So let me read you the list, and it kind of goes all over the place. So I apologize. It's pretty chaotic. It's sort of that.
I would expect nothing less.
It's sort of like
chaos is our saying, right?
It's sort of that brainstorming. Some are good, some are bad. So there's Exandra,
Exandria.
Exandria. That's the Critical Role one,
Right. Okay. So then you have Sword Coast.
which is in Forgotten Realms.
Right. Then you have Salt Marsh.
Forgotten Realms.
Underdark.
Forgotten Realms.
Okay. And that's in the movie. They threw that in the movie,
Yep.
right?
They did,
So
the Underdark, yeah.
settings for movies. Ravenloft. Then you could just have just a Fey setting.
Well, it depends on depending on what you mean by that.
Okay.
There's a couple of different links. So there's the Moonshae Isles, which are in Faerun, which is in Forgotten Realms, and that has kind of a Celtic fairy kind of feel to it. You get fairy dragons and some of the more traditional, sprites and kind of things.
Okay.
But not exactly a Feywild. The Feywild is, I think, relatively new. It is a creation from 5th edition.
Okay. Okay. That's good. That's good. That's good to know. So then
Is it because I feel like there was a plains map
Yeah.
that came out of like 3.5 that included the Fae.
I don't know. Well, see,
I think there was a point where there was the negative and positive material plane.
Oh,
and
you know
some
what?
point,
Maybe that's it.
No, well, here's the thing. So
negative material plane would be
I know-
related to Ravenloft somehow.
Well, I know what Amber's talking about. I've seen the map.
Yeah.
So the original there wasn't I don't think there was necessarily a Fey realm. So it was you had the prime material plane, and you had negative and positive. And then you had the outer planes, which were where all the gods lived. So the Abyss, the Nine Hells, Gehenna, and then you had basically every alignment had a plane. So the Concordant Crossroads, the Wild Hunt, and Elysium, Mount Fluffy Duff,
Mechanus,
thank you. But they had like the crazy. There's a mountain one that's like the lawful good one, where the Motrons come from, kind of thing. Arcadia.
I thought were Mechanus, yeah.
Yeah, but there's a bunch of those, and I think the chaotic good one is kind of like the Fey realm. Or maybe it's the chaotic neutral one is.
They're actually listing it as Feywild, as the positive, and Shadowfell
as negative.
That's what it's become, and then that's what. Yeah. Well, I think that's a 5e thing, but that's kind of what you have for your homebrew.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
I almost fucking knocked my water over. Oh Jesus God. Ooh boy. Ooh. Oh.
All right. So
okay. Continue on.
So that we talk about Fae, and then we were mentioning Eberron as a setting itself, a wild magic setting.
Eberron or Eneron?
Eberron.
Eberron was the fantasy punk setting. Yeah. That's where you got the Warforged and all the airships and everything, and yeah.
And then I sort of just went.
Hang on, wait, I'm not done. I have nerd knowledge for you.
Oh, go ahead.
Do you know where Eberron came from?
No, please tell.
I have, and I'm going to let you know. I've referenced this in the show multiple times because I was a contestant in the globe-spanning contest to become the next D&D setting.
What?
Yep. So they had a contest back in the 90s, I think it was, or early 2000s, and this is before I realized they stole all of your material.
Uh-huh.
So they've run 2 big contests. One was to create a monster, which is where I realized they stole your material, and I didn't enter that one because of it. But before that, I didn't know any better, and I submitted one of thousands of pitches to be the next setting. So I submitted one. Thousands of other people did. I didn't get past the first round. Not as creative back then as I was now. But anyways, Eberron was the setting that won that contest. That's where it came from. That is a fan-generated setting.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Then I sort of I think I got more into, I think we call them genres or tropes than worlds. So, you can have a classic fantasy or a dungeon crawl or high fantasy. You were mentioning last week about someone came to your table, high role play as opposed to low role play. And I guess these were terms I started talking about with my player saying, what type of game do you want to play?
What do you want?
Yeah.
What do you want out of a game? Because, do you want dark fantasy, gothic horror, body horror, cosmic horror? Dark fantasy, there's folk horror. Merwin
Steampunk,
Merwin likes his ghost stories.
I love ghost stories.
I love ghost stories too.
And then you were mentioning disaster,
Yeah.
disaster horror as a trope to use in your game. Occult detective stories.
It's Harry Dresden and Supernatural series.
I like Kojak the Night Stalker was always my favorite old 70s show. Psychological, the slasher horror. Have you ever run like a Jason murderer campaign?
I would if my players would let me.
I never have. I do think somebody put one of those out at one point in time.
Yeah,
A Jason slasher type.
I think so. I do know that I'm a nerd and I am old. There was an arcade game called Splatter. I think it was called Slaughterhouse.
That sounds familiar.
And you played. I think you played as Jason. It wasn't officially Jason.
Right,
You couldn't do that.
Yeah.
But I'm almost positive that you fought, not Michael Myers and not Freddy Krueger and not the Reaper and not Pumpkinhead in the game, but that's who they were.
Okay.
I vaguely remember this, seeing it, because I remember it was at the arcade at the state fair. Like, they used to have a tent with arcade games in it, which is where I wanted to spend all day. And my parents were like, we want to walk around the fair. I'm like, I don't want to go anywhere.
Yeah, I want video games.
I want to stay here. You guys can go wander around the buildings. I don't give a shit about all you want. So, but I remember that. It's one of those ones, kind of like Dragon's Lair, where I want someone to put it on the phone so I can buy it and have it.
Yeah.
Anyways, continue. But I think someone did do something with that in an RPG form. I don't remember for sure though.
Okay, so then heroic fantasy, low fantasy, and then I just started getting really kind of crazy, thinking about where you focus on something like sword and sorcery, very much like Conan.
Yeah. Well, that is its own kind of fantasy,
right? Isn't it? Wouldn't you say that is?
Well, excuse me. Go finish the list. I have some thoughts.
Apocalyptic. I don't know if you've ever run a comedy type of campaign.
That's what Paranoia is.
Well, I actually did one where, and I've mentioned this before, where everybody played the characters from Princess Bride, and it was a part 2. So everybody got to play those characters, and they really had fun because they knew how to play those characters already. So that was kind of enjoyable. Intrigue. And then I put noir because I just like that word, noir.
Oh, yeah.
But you could have a noir.
Agatha Christie. Yeah,
Right,
you can get that. Yeah.
Political. Not really good at that. But that seems to be, very Game of Thronesy.
Well, that was I want to say Mystara. I want to say Mystara, but that's wrong.
Is this a game you're talking about, or a video game?
It was a D&D setting. It's one of the ones I crammed into the end there. So the world was called Cerelia. I'm blanking on the name of the setting. It might have been Mystara. But you played as nobles who had a bloodline connected to your family, and it was designed to go with the battle system game.
Right.
So like you took your turn, you didn't really do one-on-one. You did some one-on-one stuff for the deal making and politics, but the game was like by seasons. So what are you doing with your duchy for the season? And then that would create things. It was a neat idea. It just never didn't go.
Well, that was that one. Remember, I was telling you that Discord, Venestra, where the whole thing is everyone are Dragonborns, but it's set up as ancient Rome, and there isn't really monsters. It's all about political intrigue. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a whole.
I mean, Game of Thrones would be the same thing as well.
Yeah, okay. Mystery. Then you go into the surreal, swashbuckling, pirate, war.
It wasn't okay. It wasn't Mystara. Okay.
Western, first explorers,
No, yeah, that's right.
first settlers, and then I got into space horror, sci-fi, post-apocalyptic, planet exploration, And then, of course, the multi-planal travel, dimension doorway.
Which was the Planescape was the setting.
Yeah.
Right.
With the Lady of Pain, and it's a lot. That was an 80s thing. So, well, here's so I have 2 points. And we're gonna get you guys' opinion on this. So
stay in your hex.
I'm in my hex. Calm down.
Okay.
Relax. So obviously some of these are settings, some of these are genres, and there's some crossover that you can have. So my real question is, how many came out because their timing fit with something in the zeitgeist, right? That's I was talking before about how the original settings didn't have, like, the original settings weren't built around fantasy storytelling. They were built around dungeon crawling, and then you have a little bit of a town or a little bit of backstory. That's all there was, though.
No, you're actually hitting this right on the head. I mean, even you think about when Ravenloft hit, that was that whole Anne Rice.
Well, I was going to ask, was
vampires.
Are you sure about that? Because
Yeah,
I thought the original module was before then.
Yeah, but I can even say, being a kid in that time period, Blade came out, which was like a superhero vampire movie. That was
vampires were the thing. Basically.
Yeah, vampires were very, very the thing at that time period. I think Spelljammers was just a shot in the dark. That was just like, what the hell are we doing?
Well, but here's the thing, do you know what the pop culture correlation to Spelljammer would kind of be? It would be the Thor comics from like the 70s, crazy space Viking adventures.
Yeah, but I don't think there was a zeitgeist at that time for that. Like Dark Sun. Here's a good example. Dark Sun was a Dune ripoff.
Think so?
In a way, it kind of was. They pushed it as far as they could. You had the psionics. You had the special barbarians.
See, I can't stand Dune, so I don't make that connection.
Yeah. Oh no, you hurt my heart. I love Dune.
So I mean,
the books and the movie, unfortunately, but.
I mean, I feel like that's like kind of my feeling on that. I mean, and then think about what's happening now is exactly that is pop culture has really from the 1950s to now has all become one big flopping mess where now everything can be a D&D thing. Like we were talking about this. We just said Minecraft is a D&D thing. You can have Scooby-Doo D&D. You can have...
It's a melting pot now, so everything, like you said, it can be
all these tropes can...
Well, see, I think... I'm trying to say, I think it's the shift in storytelling in the culture. So Ravenloft,
I'm gonna let you think for a second because somebody said I don't see the connection between Dune and Dark Sun. I think the reason why there's
sand.
Well, that's exactly it. The reason why the connection is so bad was because they just got their asses spanked for stealing Elric and everyone else in deities and demigods, and realized they had to kind of dance around IPs to use them. But everyone who was playing D&D at that time that got Dark Sun was playing Dune. So I mean, whether that's what they created or not.
Now, I see Dark Sun because Dark Sun came out in the mid '90s, and you're smack dab in the whole, grungy, angsty, existential crisis era. That's when Werewolf and Vampire came out, and it's like, I would kill myself, but I'm too sad to raise the knife. Shit like that. You got all the fucking goth kids and everything, and that's when Vampire and Werewolf got really popular. And Dark Sun was the everything sucks. It's like it's literally the everything sucks world.
It is the everything sucks world. That's definitely true. But they were just trying to expand beyond modules and see how much more money they could make because Then they didn't plan to do anything else for any of it after it. They just
They didn't build it out.
no, they didn't build any of
Yeah.
it out. So what can we make?
Well, it's
And then
also it's a survival. So
no, it was no,
it's a survivalist kind of game. So there's the speaking of tropes, right? So on your list, there's different ways to play the game. That you hit that are kind of reflected in some of the genres, but you have the hi, good morning. You have the simulationists, people like me, that like I want you to track your arrows and I want you to run out of torches and I want there to be that threat to you, which is what the old game was like.
Oh, that's a dungeon crawl, right?
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be. You can be in the wilderness as well.
Right.
But supply, like your gear matters and things. There's an impact to everything, and it does require some resource management, and it's very pseudo realistic. Not everyone likes that style of game, though, and so that's that's a thing, though. So like Dark Sun's an extreme version of that. Because right down to telling you, and this is kind of going into 3.5 as well. It was a second edition setting, but it was as they were working on third edition. There's rules for everything, like how much water you have to drink, how many gallons of water you need to drink per day based on your race, and how much damage and how durable a bone weapon is versus stone weapon versus steel weapon, type thing. Those were very big things with that setting. Because you would die of exposure, or you're fighting. They had the mantis people in that game, which I thought was that's a weird. That's my first memories of the gaggle of weirdos. Like, hey, we're gonna have the 3 Kreen. We're gonna have bug people in here. Like, really?
Yeah,
Really?
I said for us, it was just whatever it was. Dune had come out, the movie had come out in '84, and we'd had the books before that, and then this was the closest thing we had to playing that kind of style. So, and then of course the guy DMing it loved Dune, so he crafted it very much that way for us.
Maybe, like I said,
not having material, not having.
I see it as more an extension of the storytelling of the age, where everything sucks and the world is terrible, and we all kind of felt that way.
Yeah.
So
How do you cope?
which makes me wonder though. So when the game, like I said, it makes sense when the game started as a war game, and when you kind of slowly worked your way into it, and then your first settings are they're kind of Tolkienian in scope. They have gods and they have a long history and they have a whole world and all the various races. There's a lot to those. They're kind of sweeping fantasy epics. They're designed for that. And then, like I said, I don't remember exactly when Ravenloft came out, so I can't speak intelligently about what things were like then. But I mean, if it came out in the early '90s, which I think it did, or late '80s, you were getting into that.
I mean, you had the module came out in the late '80s, but the game setting came out in the '90s. But I'm saying you had that whole time period. That was all vampire movies and Terminator and Alien, and we want to play everything. We wanted to be a role-playing game. The only role-playing game was Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah. So fair enough. It's sort of, we wanted everything that's happening now. We wanted movies of Dune. We wanted, but there hadn't been a movie. I
didn't want a movie of Dune, but
well,
the mini series was amazing enough. I'm like, we're good, thanks.
No, actually, the mini series. Wait, are you being sarcastic?
I might be.
Okay, I don't know you well enough yet.
I don't think anything could do the novels any justice. I mean, no movie ever does any novels justice. That's
fair. Right. Fair enough.
That's absolutely
so
true.
I'm curious. Yeah. So you were talking about the tropes and this long list. So was this the list that you provided your player, or was this the list your player provided you, or was it a collaboration?
I provided this to her, and we started talking about like all these different tropes and genres and settings. So she had an idea what are these guys talking about? Like,
okay,
she had no clue.
So wait, so is this a player who doesn't so they don't? Does this player not share the same media references and things with you guys? Like, she hasn't seen these movies? Because I ran into that with one of my Wednesday players, and I shake my head at it, where I'm like, oh, he had dragged his wife to play in a game, and we were looking for players. I go, hey, she's always welcome. I know she's shy. I'm really mellow. I don't talk that much, so I'm a really good person to be around if you're an introvert. I definitely am not going to overwhelm you at all. I go, why don't you invite her? That's definitely sarcasm.
Okay.
Yeah. But why don't you invite her along? He's like, oh, maybe, and I'm like, what does she like to play? And he's like, well, that's the problem. I go, what do you mean? Well, she's not a nerd like us. I'm like, okay, I mean, she played the game once, yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, so does she not, like, so what's her references? Does she watch Lord of the Rings, read the book? No. Does she watch any fantasy? No. What about science fiction? No. She doesn't know Blade Runner, doesn't know Blade Runner, doesn't know Blade, doesn't know Cyberpunk, doesn't know none of this stuff. I couldn't find a single cultural touchstone that I, as a nerd, am familiar with that she is into. So, because normally what I say is like, take your favorite thing, whatever movie you love, and then build your character to be one of the people from the movie that you liked. Who did you like in Lord of the Rings?
That's what I tell my new players too. Right. Yeah, and if you can't,
did you even get her with Twilight?
Nothing.
You gotta throw out Twilight.
You didn't even get her with Twilight? Jesus Christ. Oh my God.
Oh, that'd be terrible. But I wonder. So I wonder if people.
No. Now you asked me about my player.
Yeah. Sorry.
So remember that when I was sick and I couldn't play D&D, I started this text-based D&D with images on Facebook, and it was a friend of mine from college, and this girl joined in. Jess, she joined in as the other player, and she had never played role-playing games. Her husband played D&D and had his regular D&D crew, but she did not want to join her husband's D&D crew. And in fact, somewhere along the line said, hey, can we just play D&D? This Facebook thing is really slow. Can we just play D&D? And I was like, I don't think I'm ready for that. And then I got better, turned around, and I decided to DM. I got asked to DM Ravenloft. I said, hey, you want to come play D&D? She got pulled right in playing Ravenloft, horror, gothic horror. But we never talked about what setting we were in or anything. She just started playing with us. And that's when we said, okay, what are we going to play next? And she's like, well, what do you mean? What are we going to play next? Like, what setting? I said, well, we're playing like horror right now. She's like, what do you mean? And then I was like, well, let me come up with this list so we can talk about, where you want to go next or what do you want to do next with the game.
Now, is the decision solely up to her, or is it just you're just trying to get her to weigh in?
Well, I'm just trying to get her to understand, the bigger thing of the game. It's like, I know nothing about baseball.
Right.
Right. So what the hell is batting average? That's, to her, it was sort of that same thing. She had no idea what we were talking about. We've just been playing in this setting with vampires and ghosts and everything else, She has no idea, unicorns.
So again, she doesn't consume any kind of fantasy media at all?
Well, no, she does.
She just didn't have any idea that you could kind of.
Yeah, she could say, I want to pick this. She didn't. And I guess she didn't feel comfortable just saying, yeah, I want something more like Lord of the Rings, or I want something more like that. That was not her first connection.
Yeah.
Now, meanwhile, this is a college professor that does advanced probability mathematics. So, some things escape.
So she'd be great being your astromech in Star Wars?
Yes.
So I wonder, I talk about this all the time. I'll get your input on it, Giddes. And I added a new piece to it. So I think players fall on a spectrum. That's the popular word these days. On one end, you have creatives. These are people that write in the stories, usually end up being the DMs, or they have elaborate backstories. Like they're that end of the people. They're always trying to come up with content. And then in the far end, you have consumers. People that will show up to your game every week and hanging out with everybody, and they like the story and whatever, but they're not going to contribute. They're not going to contribute to to the fantasy of it. They're going to play the game with you and hang out, and they'll enjoy it. But they don't write a backstory. Like that's not their thing.
Okay.
This is not going to be. And then the new thing is, I think in the middle, and I think there's another. I don't know if it's a different axis or if it'd be in the middle of those two, but you have your contributors, who are people that are there to consume the media, but will put the work in to enrich it and enhance it. And I think that's kind of the idea. So I'm wondering if your friend is just really deep on the consumer spectrum, and this might be a problem with your gal pals as well, that they're either inclined to be consumers, that's just their thing, and for them the game you haven't presented the game to them in a way that gives them a reason to be there, social or otherwise. But then I also wonder how many people just never considered that they could be a creative or a contributor to it. And I think that's the thing. Like they're like, well, we watch movies, we read books, we don't write books, we don't tell stories, we don't add to the movie. We just go and consume it, right? And I wonder if they don't realize, like, well, this game is a vehicle for that, because, like I said, if you're creative, if they were creatives, they're already doing this stuff. But you could probably so you probably can't get a consumer to ever really be a creative, but you could get them to be a contributor, where they're throwing ideas out to build things up once they realize that they're allowed to do that.
Right. So here's the thing. It's funny that now that you kind of talked that through, I don't want to say I have an idea, but so with my gal pals, right? We've had many conversations about get-togethers, and they come up with wonderful ideas of things we want to do. Like, we're going to make our own escape room. I'm going to make literally my whole house an escape room, and I am comfortable doing that because I love doing that kind of stuff and being creative and thinking how can I make my whole house an escape room that they have to figure out, which is basically, in my brain, a large scale D&D game. But they don't know that. But we've talked about things like this, doing the murder mystery parties, things like that. But I just think, and I don't know if this is a female thing, it's just these particular gal pals or what have you, but I just think that when you mention D&D, it's kind of they just kind of shut down, and like it's not, they just kind of that's not my thing, and they're not really hearing it or open to it.
Are they imagining people running around in wizard hats poking each other with staves?
I can definitely hear one in my head saying yes, that's what they see. But when this is where I do get kind of creative, because the last time we talked was about doing an escape room, and I would turn my whole house into an escape room, and I thought to myself, this is how I get them, because I'm going to do a real world one shot in my house. They're going to pretend to be characters. They're going to solve a mystery. There won't be any battles, but I think if I could get them to do this and enjoy it, I might be able to talk, like, just baby step them into D&D where they don't realize that it's happening. But it hasn't happened yet. So because it's really hard to get us together.
I like that. No, I like that idea. So you could create a very simple 3 or 4 item character sheet.
Yeah.
Like for this escape room, keep this, and then you can create the challenges. Like, in order to get a clue, you have to get, I don't know, whatever combined skill at sleuthing or something like that. It's like kind of gamify the escape room a little bit more with a sheet. Maybe have some random rolls in there for things.
Yeah,
and then afterwards, you hit them with the fact that what they were doing was D&D Light.
Right. Exactly.
Item cards to work well. Like,
yeah, that's the thing. They're really game and they're really adventurous. It's just, I think it's that stigmata. As soon as you say D&D, it's a whole nother conversation, and they partially checked out.
Did you say D&D? Did you say D&D?
But yeah, it doesn't jive with them. So when they did mention the escape room, I got excited, but it hasn't happened. I don't think they're listening either, so they won't. They
won't see it coming. Well, so why don't you try to trick them into some sort of group storytelling activity where they have to create, where they got to come up with shit like that, and if they
Yeah.
enjoy that, be like, hey, you know, there's this
Yeah.
crazy thing we could do.
Well, I was gonna say, you just got to find the right trope or setting, right? I mean,
Right.
that's really what it's all about.
But I
Vampire
think the thing
Masquerade,
is it
baby.
has to be a couple times. If I do it once and then I point it out, they'll be like, "Oh no, that's
Yeah, you gotta hook them on it,
yeah,
right?
I really gotta get them." Like,
Watch
Well, it's
she's
where
gonna-
the
she's gonna
there's
do this. They're all
hold on,
gonna turn into
hang on, what's it
LARPers.
called? Shit.
You're gonna do this. They're all gonna turn into LARPers.
There's a well, no, there's a social card game where you deal everybody. It's like a murder mystery type thing.
is that
Every-
Kill Hitler? Is that the thing? I think I've heard that card game.
No, but that sounds fun. But
Okay.
I think this one's a werewolf one where you
Okay.
deal cards out, right? So and everybody gets a character card, and you're either a werewolf or you're not a werewolf.
Okay.
And the whole game is interacting with the other people as the character, asking questions, trying to figure out who's a werewolf and who's not a werewolf.
yeah.
And then there's some rules about like turning people into werewolves, and then they got to switch sides. It sounded super. I never played it, but it's you can do like up to 40 people, but it's a social game. But it comes in a little box. It's a board game, so they don't feel like they're role playing. But you can trick
Okay.
them with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that might be a good one to get them into that as well.
All right.
'Cause
Well,
those
as soon
games
as we
are-
get together, I will slam this on them somehow and let you know how it goes.
Yeah, I'll find you the name of the game. You can get that.
Okay.
So not to jump topics, but I just remembered I had a thought from before. And I wanted to bring it up to you guys. You had mentioned it, and I guess it kind of relates to this. So do you think that the D&D movie showing things that were non-rules correct will have kind of a, for lack of a term, like a Mercer effect, where people will show up to try the game and then be turned off because it's not what they saw in the movie? Like, is that, you think that's going to have a negative effect on the community? A negative, or is it going to be a net negative or net positive? Because I think Critical Role is a net positive.
Yeah, Critical
But-
Role is definitely a net positive. I'm torn. I think ultimately, people who are interested, who try it out, will find that they enjoy it. I think it'll be folks that are min-maxers, that don't know that they're min-maxers, will come to the game frustrated with their action economy and why it
can't
isn't
do all
what
the
they
things.
thought it would be. And that's where, but I think overall, anybody who's interested who tries it, I think will enjoy it and will go, oh, I didn't realize that was the rule because this is what I saw. But I think, so that overall, I think it will be a net positive. I don't think it's going to be a big net positive, but I'm just worried that there will be those frustrations and people will kind of like, spread the word like, well, it's not exactly what I thought it was going to be. And, So I just want to get that word out now so people start talking about it and telling their friends, hey, if you saw the movie and you want to try the game, just know you're not going to be wild shaping 5 times in a day. So
I'm intrigued to see how it plays out in years to come. How people look back at the movie.
yeah.
We're looking back at 2000, scoffing at it, but meanwhile, when we got it in 2000, it was like, at least we got something.
Yeah.
It sucked. We got something.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
so-
why I think that there might be another D&D movie, because I feel like society is ready and waiting for more fantasy content, fantasy movies, fantasy shows. On the heels of Game of Thrones, there's this hole that people are trying to fill with content.
And that's what you talk about the zeitgeist. You go back to the other D&D movies, which I didn't realize I had not seen. One of them Book of Vile Darkness went right to DVD, which that was the time period when things went right to DVD.
Yeah.
So we're
Only
in a
the
time
bad
period-
things.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Was it that bad?
Yes. Yes,
I
it is.
have no idea. I have no idea.
1,000% it was that bad.
See, now
So
I feel like I need to see it to provide the opposing opinion, but I haven't seen it.
There are few things in this world that I can tell you with absolute certainty or the case.
Well,
And that movie
how
being
would you
bad.
rank them? All four movies, because I noticed there was some ranking for all four.
Oh, I would. Well, I would just tell people they didn't exist, and I would say there's one D&D movie and it just came out, and enjoy.
Okay, that's fine for me. I'll take that as an answer.
It's just like this. I might show up to every D&D game in my wizard robe and hat with my staff and all my little bits and baubles and props. But if someone's on the fence about playing, I'm not going to mention that to them, and I probably won't show up in costume the first time. You got to bring them in first before you let them see the darkness.
You don't want to inundate them.
No, you don't want to scare them off. You don't want it to anger them.
Yeah, and I think, and my table isn't really costumes or anything. We are far more just, hey, we like to sit down and play this game. You know, we don't need all the baubles and bangles, and
yep.
It's just about having fun together at the table. Really.
You know, I'm a little disappointed now that you guys make it sound like it's so common to show up at your table in costume, and no one does that at not my table, but at the table that I play with. I would expect that we have been playing long enough and friends long enough and nerds long enough to do that. I definitely do wear elements of my character, but not like in full costume.
Ooh.
And I'm the only one that does that.
Ooh, I just had a great idea for you. So why not combine the role playing with the mystery with the costuming, and pick your gal pals that are closest to playing and some cool people from your D&D group and go to a Ren Fair together in costume, and then you spring the mystery on them at the Ren Fair. They have to run around in character and do that. So they're already in costume. They're already on other people that are pretending to be other people, so they can get into the character part of it. You give them like a little scavenger hunt mystery thing to solve, and then afterwards, like, wasn't that fun? Well, I got a thing for you.
We can do this all the time.
That's really good. I like that.
Yeah,
really
you know, that would be a great solution, except that the nearest Ren Fair is about 2.5 hours away. I go every year, but I'm the only... I don't want to say I'm the only one. My best friend has gone a couple times with me, but no one usually wants to make that trek.
It's a trek for you.
Yeah.
I was really trying. All right, then.
I know. I appreciate it.
All right, wait, I got one more. I got one more.
All right,
ready?
go.
I got one. So there's one other world we have to talk about, and you know what world that is? Our world, Eneron.
Oh yes.
Right. It's time for our shameless
Why haven't
plug,
we?
right?
All right, I gotta run. I'll be right back.
So, again, we are the game. You can join us on Monday nights on Facebook. We've kind of pushed our time back an hour now. We're going to be on 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. You can check us out. We talk all things D&D, creativity, all that kind of fun stuff. Check our webpage out at dungeonstudios.co. We've got Eneron Adventures there to purchase. We have our free Eneron Chronicle, damn.
Wait, yeah. Nope, I had it right the first time.
Sorry, editor. He's the editor. So, Eneron Chronicle coming out, right? You ready? You got one?
Oh, yeah. This week I'm hoping to finish up.
All right.
Yeah.
And it's got free monsters in there, free magic.
We have an interview with one of our team members.
Oh, yeah. There's an interview with a team member. We also have current projects. We have our Fables of the Forgotten, which should be out soon. I'm waiting for these guys. I keep seeing them in the studio.
Yeah, I've been watching the voice actors. I've gotten into a couple of their meetings. It's great.
I've been listening to some recordings. But
they're fun. Have you been in a meeting with voice actors?
Yeah, it's a blast.
Fun people.
It's a blast. But don't say that because Merwin's got to do all the editing. So shh. And then deception checks. Josh, our fearless leader, is working on some prank phone calls, which are all fantasy, LARPing based craziness. The last one was just absolutely hilarious. They're asking someone at a freezer store if they will freeze a body till they can get it resurrected.
That's great. I haven't heard it yet, but I'm gonna have to listen to it.
Oh my God, it's so funny. It is so funny. It's great. I love it.
That's awesome.
We also started work on our volume 3 adventures. So they will be out. Our volume 2s are finished being homebrewed. They'll be up on our website soon for purchase. Oh yeah, and you know what else? We got kind of cool tread. Like, you see, I'm gonna do it wrong again. Oh, there we go. The eyeball, man. Our eyeball's really cool. We got it on shirts and t-shirts, and sweatshirts, all kinds
You
of
have
stuff.
t-shirts?
We got all kinds of stuff.
How
You
did
ever-
I not know this? I need a t-shirt.
You need to get to the webpage, man. You also have to get there and buy Map Monsters, which is a collection of 25 monsters from the Explorer maps that got statted by Dr.Pletorius himself. I mean, me, myself.
That's you.
That's me. So definitely check us out, Dungeon Studios. We're always looking for test players, test DMs. We're on Discord. And as you can see above me, I can't mess that one up. You can hear us on all these great channels. Amazon, iHeart, going across there.
Yep.
Spotify.
YouTube.
What's the one spinning? I don't know that one. What's
That's
the
just, it just says it's a podcast.
Yeah. Hey, so just out, for playtesters, if you're interested, Doc runs a lot of these. I'm in some of them. So if you like hearing us talk and you like hanging out with us, then come join us for playtesting.
Yeah, please do. Please do. We have monster fights on Friday and Saturdays at 12. And I know we're talking to a couple DMs. We hope to get some Friday and Saturday night games getting started soon, too.
Nice.
All right.
Have we been shameless? Have we done all the plugs?
Done all the plugs.
A lot of plugs.
Wonderful. Well, I think we covered the topic, talked about the things, and we entertained our ones of fans. So that's awesome.
Hey, I saw a lot of people on.
I know. No, I think we were like at 6 or 7 at one point in time.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
for everybody joining us.
So that's awesome.
And yes, the Verusk was from Star Frontiers. He's all over you, man. Upright man's all over you.
He's got it. Yeah. I gotta go check his. I gotta check his information here because I was not aware. And
No, there
think-
were insectoids. They're insectoids.
No. I'm saying the whole thing about Gygax's licensing chainmail. I thought he created it.
Oh,
I gotta check. I gotta check. It's been a while since I've watched the documentary, so I'm gonna have to go back and devote some time to that.
Well, isn't there is going to be
You're right before the podcast ends.
Well, isn't there going to be an official documentary? I believe now, isn't there? There is an official documentary that is being.
Well, I think Joe Manganiello is heading a documentary.
That's
isn't
what
he?
I thought. I believe.
I'd seen the news on that.
I don't know. I don't know how.
Well, no. Well, I mean, Joe's doing is trying to get a live action Dragonlance series off the ground. He's
No, but
producing
he's
that.
also
Doing a documentary. Okay.
Yeah,
Like 50
supposedly
years
also
of
for the
D&D.
Nice.
documentary.
Did you which speaking of documentaries, did you watch the Eye of the Beholder, the art one I told you about?
I'd seen that one already
Okay.
last time. we
No, I
talked
have
about
not.
it.
What is this? What are you talking about?
So on Amazon, it's called Eye of the Beholder, and it is the art history of D&D, which is both fascinating and awesome. And it's quite the trip down, like the nostalgic trip, because you see the images and artwork that inspired you as a kid. It's great.
Yeah, I gotta have to check it out.
And they talk about the various generations of art and different people, and it's pretty cool.
Very nice, very nice. All right.
All right. Well, there we go. So, all right, I'm gonna have to dig into my research. I gotta do some research. Upright. I'm not disregarding what you're saying. I'm just not positive, and I want to find out for myself. But I appreciate. Hey, you definitely hung out for the entire show, man. I appreciate that.
Right?
So,
Thank you.
like we said, speaking of our ones of fans, Upright Man, you have been our stalwart the entire time. So thank you for being with us. For everybody else to check this out live on Facebook or are listening to us on your favorite podcasting app, I thank you. We thank you, and we appreciate your continued support. So, brings us to the end of the show. Who's taking us out? I saw Giddes wrote the words, so I say we give it to her.
Oh, man, mine's so short, though. Yours is really good. I just wanted to say, remember, Mondays can be fun days when you talk nerdy with friends.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that? That's perfect. And now I'm going to screw up the outro screen like I always do. Hold on one second. Doc, you weren't here last week. Give the people what they want to hear.
Hey, no matter how you start out, you always start out odd. But with a little creativity, you'll always have the prime initiative.
Yay.
That was prime advantage. You change it on me?
I'm polyneuropathy, man.
It's,
You guys are on East
it's
Coast
late. We're
time.
all on drugs. No one knows what's going on. Giddes, I think your outro was amazing. I'm not even going to
Thank you.
subvert it and say my own. So you kids enjoy. We'll catch you next Monday or whenever you listen to us on your favorite podcast app. Thank you very much, and good night to the internet.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Now you can move on.
Hey, I didn't screw it up this time. Thanks for listening.